some technical issues, but they've been resolved now. And I'm glad to be here this Wednesday evening, and I'm sure we're going to have a great time together. I mentioned yesterday that, once a week we'll be listening to some people that we look up to, right? Elders, men, women, fathers, mothers. Some of them are no longer with us, but they have speeches they made and books they wrote, and some of them are still with us. So from time to time, as a matter of fact, every week, once a week, we will have the opportunity to listen to them and then discuss whatever it is they share, and hopefully that way we can learn, and drink from their wells of wisdom. Okay, so we're going to start with Chief Ladoke Akintola today, and we're doing that because we had a session discussing our law on trial, and during that conversation we talked about the relationship between Papa and SLA and how things went down. And I know that for the most part in Yoruba land where we talk about SLA, for whatever reason, it's neither here nor there. We have different perspective about it, and for the most part, it's seen like, maybe he didn't do some things right. And yet, to be fair with this, if you're on YouTube, please like the live and share. If you're on Facebook, kindly like and share as well. Thank you very much. For those of us on TikTok, Bumblebee and my brother Ibos have done fantastically well, and I know that other people also helped, but those are the names I kept saying. I want to appreciate everybody who has, tapped and liked. Please don't stop. Let's keep liking and sharing so that we can keep pushing the last FYP. All right, and when it's time to talk, please feel free to come up. I'd like us to actually have serious conversations based on this speech. Okay, having said that, let's get on with it. This is Chief Akintola, and please listen and enjoy. Yeah. Okay, this is actually
tẹ̀síwájú wọn nípa gbogbo ọkùnrin àti gbogbo obìnrin àtàṣe ní ìhun ọmọ ìgbà àti ìhun èyí. Ìbò èyí tí a ó dì nínú ọ̀sẹ̀ yìí, a ó dì í pẹ̀lú ìbà Ọlọ́run Olódùmarè, pẹ̀lú ìbà àtiwáyé ọjọ́, pẹ̀lú ìbà àtiwọ̀ oòrùn. Ọlọ́run ò ní jẹ́ kó fún mi. Ìbò náà ṣe pàtàkì púpọ̀ ju èyíkéyìí tá a fi ní ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà lọ rí. Ó ṣe pàtàkì nítorí àyọrísí rẹ̀ pàápàá ohun pàtàkì òun ni yóò jẹ́. Abo ni Ọlọ́run yóò jẹ́ kí ìbò náà tí ó fi sí kékeré àti àgbà wa. Nínú ìbò tí a ó dì nínú ọ̀sẹ̀ tí a ó bọ́ sí yìí, a ó ní àǹfààní láti yàn irú ìgbé ayé wo ni a fẹ́ gbé. A ó ní àǹfààní láti yàn nínú oríṣiríṣi ọ̀nà èyí tó yà yẹ́lẹyẹ̀lẹ níwájú wa. Ọ̀nà iye nìyí lẹ́gbẹ́ kan, ọ̀nà ikú nìyí lẹ́gbẹ́ kejì. Ọlọ́run ò ní pa wá ní kékeré. Ọ̀nà àríjẹ nìyí lẹ́gbẹ́ kan, ọ̀nà àríjẹ nìyí lẹ́gbẹ́ kejì. Ọlọ́run ò ní ta wá lóṣì. Ọ̀nà tí àwọn ọmọ wa rí ṣe, tí wọ́n rí jẹ, tí wọ́n rí mu, tí wọ́n tú ọmọ fún àwọn òbí tó bí wọn, tí wọ́n sì lè ní ìgbádùn ní ìgbé ayé wọn, ó wà níwájú wa. Ọ̀nà kí á sì bí àwọn ọmọ lọ bẹ́rẹ́bẹ́, kí àìríṣe àti àìríjẹ àti àìrímu ó sọ púpọ̀ nínú wọn di ọmọ jàgùdà ó wà níwájú wa. Ọlọ́run kò ní jẹ́ kí ẹ tú jàgùdà. Gbogbo ẹ̀yin ọ̀dọ́mọkùnrin àti ọ̀dọ́mọbìnrin tẹ́ ẹ sì gbọ́ ohùn mi lálẹ́ yìí, Ọlọ́run ò ní ṣe ní jàgùdà. Ṣùgbọ́n nígbà tí a bá ń sọ̀rọ̀ ìbò, wọ́n ní màá ọmọ àmì kan ní màá. Ẹlòmíràn bí ọ̀rọ̀ ìbò ti yé sí ní ìbá èyí tó kà nípa ètò ìbò dídì ní ìlú Amẹ́ríkà àbí ní ìlú Gẹ̀ẹ́sì. Torí náà ojú tí ó fi wo ìbò ìlú Amẹ́ríkà àti ìlú Gẹ̀ẹ́sì ọ̀sí ara wa nínú ìtàn wa nínú ìrírí wa pẹ̀lú àwọn òyìnbó àyàtọ̀ díẹ̀. Ètò ìbò ní ọ̀dọ̀ wa ó sì yàtọ̀ pẹ̀lú. Èso tí ń so pàápàá ó yàtọ̀ pẹ̀lú. Àwọn kan wà nínú àwọn tí wọ́n rò pé ìbò dídì yìí ohun eré lásán ni, kò yẹ ká fi ṣèjà. Ẹni tó bá bọ́ sí lọ́wọ́ ó bọ́ sí lọ́wọ́ ẹ̀ náà ni. Èmi kò bá àwọn orú èèyàn báyìí jiyàn, ó sì yẹ kó rí gan-an ni wọ́n wí ni. Ṣùgbọ́n ẹ ṣe àkíyèsí nínú ìtàn tiwa nígbà tí a rí mọ̀ nípa ọ̀rọ̀ ètò ìbò dídì, ó dàbí ẹni pé ó jẹ́ pàkúté èyí tí à ń tẹ́lẹ̀ fún ara wa. Ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ àwọn ènìyàn ni wọ́n lo ìbò dídì láti fi ṣe òfin èyí tí wọ́n fi mú àwọn ẹlòmíràn, wọ́n fi sọ àwọn ẹlòmíràn dẹrú. Nípa ètò ìbò dídì yìí, ó dàbí ẹni pé àwọn mìíràn tí wọ́n wà níwájú rí àti fà wọ́n sẹ́yìn. Àwọn ẹlòmíràn wọ́n fi ń dẹ àwọn ènìyàn wa láti tì wá sí ipò ní tí a ó gbé di ẹni ẹ̀yìn. Ọlọ́run kò ní ṣe wá ní ẹni ẹ̀yìn. Bí àpẹẹrẹ, àwọn Ìgbò alákùkọ wọ́n ti sọ ìbò di nǹkan mìíràn ní ilẹ̀ wa lónìí. Wọ́n ti lo ìbò dídì yìí láti fi jẹ gàba lórí ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ oríṣiríṣi ẹ̀yà ní ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà. Wọ́n wá ń sọ fún wa pé nítorí ìbò dídì yìí, òun ni yóò fún àwọn ní àǹfààní láti di olórí, láti jẹ gàba. Àwa gbọ́dọ̀ jẹ́ ohun èlò lọ́wọ́ wọn. Ẹni tí kò bá sì fẹ́ jẹ́ ohun èlò, ó di ẹni tí wọ́n máa tàka ẹ̀gàn sí, ẹni tí wọ́n máa bú nínú ìwé ìròyìn wọn. Irú àwọn èèyàn bẹ́ẹ̀ yìí máa ṣe lórí ìbò alákùkọ. Àwọn ìbò alákùkọ sì ti bẹ̀rẹ̀ pẹ́, wọ́n ti bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí palẹ̀mọ́ pẹ́ láti wá ọ̀nà èyí tí wọ́n fi jẹ gàba lórí gbogbo ẹ̀yà ti Nàìjíríà yòókù, láti wá ọ̀nà tí wọ́n fi máa tẹ̀ wá mọ́lẹ̀, pàápàá jùlọ àwọn kóòtù òjíire ní ilẹ̀ Ìwọ̀ Oòrùn. Láti nǹkan bí 30 ọdún sẹ́yìn, wọ́n ti bẹ̀rẹ̀ nínú ìwé ìròyìn wọn láti máa kẹ́dàn, láti máa ṣáátá gbogbo àwọn tó jẹ́ aṣíwájú ní gbogbo ilẹ̀ kóòtù òjíire. Wọ́n gbìyànjú púpọ̀ láti jẹ́ kí àwọn ọ̀dọ́mọkùnrin kóòtù òjíire kí wọ́n má nígbàgbọ́ nínú àwọn bàbá tó bí wọn mọ́. Àwọn ipò alákùkọ yìí, wọ́n wá nílò retí pé nígbà tí àwọn bá fi bẹ́ẹ̀ dá èdè àìyedè sílẹ̀ láàrin àwọn kóòtù òjíire, yóò fún àwọn ní àǹfààní láti bọ́ síwájú. Nígbà tí ètò ìbò dídì dé, wọ́n wá gbìyànjú gidigidi láti rí i pé gbogbo àlá tí àwọn ti ńlá látẹ̀yìnwá, àwọn lo ìbò bíi àwúre tí ó mú kí àlá náà ṣẹ. Nítorí ẹ ó rántí pé ní nǹkan bí 20 ọdún sẹ́yìn ni ọ̀kan nínú àwọn aṣíwájú nínú àwọn ipò alákùkọ ló lanu ló sọ fún wa pé òun ká àwọn ipò alákùkọ bíi àkàndá Ọlọ́run Olódùmarè tí Ọlọ́run sọ̀kalẹ̀ sí ilé ayé láti wá jẹ gàba lórí gbogbo àwa ẹ̀dá yòókù, pàápàá jùlọ ní ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà. Ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ò pé ní nǹkan nígbà náà, ṣùgbọ́n láti ìgbà tí wọ́n ti sọ eléyìí ni wọ́n ti ń ṣiṣẹ́ tọ̀ díẹ̀ nínú ẹlẹ́dẹ̀ sì ń wà láti ìgbà kan lọ. Èyí tí àwọn ọmọ títú òdu òjìire àti àwọn mìíràn ní òkè ọya ẹni tí ń po èbó oríṣiríṣi ìgbà àwọn tí wọ́n mọ ibi táwọn ń lọ tí wọ́n fẹ́ fi ara wọn sí ipò tí àwọn èèyàn yòókù tí wọn ò ní jẹ́ nǹkan mọ́ wọn ò jẹ́ para rárá. Wọ́n ń dùn ún ní gbogbo ọ̀nà láti di pé wọ́n gbẹ gàba. Mo fẹ́ di ẹ̀yin tí ẹ̀ ń gbọ́ ohùn mi. Mélòó nínú àwọn tó ti ilẹ̀ ìwọ̀ oòrùn tí wọ́n tún òjìire ló lọ fi ara ẹ̀ jẹ baálẹ̀ tó fi ara ẹ̀ jẹ àárín àgbò tó fi ara ẹ̀ jẹ balógun ní ilẹ̀ Ìgbò alákùkọ. Mo béèrè lọ́wọ́ ẹ̀ tó wá lè ka iye àwọn Ìgbò alákùkọ tí wọ́n wà ní òkè ọya àti wọ́n wà ní ilẹ̀ Yorùbá. Àwọn àjòjì gbogbogbò ní pé kí ọmọ onílẹ̀ òmọ́yìn ó lè kà wọ́n láàrin wa. Wọn ò fún Ìbàdàn tí wọn ò jẹ́ kí ọmọ onílẹ̀ mú mí. Wọn ò fún Kánò wọn ò fún Abẹ́òkúta bẹ́ẹ̀. Wọ́n pọ̀ káàkiri tó ebi Àkúrẹ́. Wọ́n ń lọ díẹ̀díẹ̀ láti rí pé wọ́n kárí ẹyí gbogbo ilẹ̀ wa. Wọ́n fún okùn mọ́ wa lọ́rùn nípa ètò tí ìjọba nípa ọ̀nà tí òwò. Ibo ni ojú wọn ò ká, ibo ni wọn ò dé, ibo ni wọn rán okùn yí wa kádé. Yóò bá sí ètò tí ìbò nípa àwọn ò ní ká wa tó bẹ́ẹ̀. Nígbà tí ọ̀rọ̀ ti ìbò wá dé, wọ́n wá múra. Àwọn ní pé àwọn ó jẹ gàba ní òkè ọya, nípa àwọn ó jẹ gàba ní ilẹ̀ Yorùbá, nípa àwọn ó jẹ gàba ní ilẹ̀ tí wọ́n pàpà ní ilẹ̀ Ìgbò. Wàhálà àwọn ó jẹ gàba ní ilẹ̀ tí àbọ̀ ìpínlẹ̀ kìí ṣe kí wọ́n ti fẹ́ jẹ gàba bẹ́ẹ̀. Kí ni wọ́n ń lé? Kí ni wọ́n fẹ́ mú? Àlàyé ẹ̀yìn ọmọ ìyá mi ó la ojú ẹ sílẹ̀ tí wọn náà ń wòran lónìí. Ara ohun tí wọ́n fẹ́ mú òun náà ni láti di olórí lọ́nà gbogbo ní ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà. Tó bá lọ sí ìlú Èkó lónìí, gbogbo àwọn tó jẹ́ jàǹkànjàǹkàn ipò níbẹ̀, àwọn wo ló rí níbẹ̀ o? Bó lọ bí ti ọkọ̀ ilẹ̀, àwọn wo ló lórí? Àwọn wo ló wà láàrin? Àwọn wo ni wọ́n ń jẹ́ balógun? Wọ́n kó gbogbo bẹ̀ jọ. Ní ṣe àwọn ipò àkókò náà ni. Ṣé bá kúrò bẹ́ẹ̀ tó lọ sí ọkọ̀ òfurufú? Nígbà tó bá wí pé àwọn wo la ṣáájú ń bẹ̀? Ní ṣe àwọn ipò alákòókò náà ni. Tó bá kúrò bẹ́ẹ̀ tó lọ sí ọkọ̀ ojú omi, àwọn kan náà ló bá mẹ́. Tó bá kúrò ńbẹ̀ tó bá wá àwọn aṣojú ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà ní ilẹ̀ òkèèrè, ó bá lọ sí Moscow, ó bá lọ sí Paris, ó bá lọ sí Bonn, ó bá lọ sí Berlin, ó bá lọ sí New York, ó bá lọ sí Washington. Àwọn tó bá ń bẹ̀ wọ́n kì í ṣe mọ̀dẹ́mọ́sọ àrò. Bó kì í mọ̀ tèmi mà bó kò yí lógun lẹ́kọ̀ọ́ ọ̀rọ̀ kankan. Ara àbòmí ni. Wọ́n gbìyànjú wọ́n kan ara wa mọ́lẹ̀ látàpá. Wọ́n rí ara wọn bí òpó. Wọ́n fẹ́ sọ àwa yòókù bí ìpọ̀sì. Ọ̀nà wo ni wọ́n gbà débẹ̀? Wọ́n ní ìbò yìí náà ni wọ́n lò tí wọ́n yí débẹ̀. Wọ́n tó ń gbọ́ ọ̀rọ̀ mi láti Èkó wá. Àbí ẹ̀yin tẹ́ wà ní ìlú bí Ìbàdàn? Àbí ẹ̀yin tẹ́ wà ní ìlú bí Kaduna? Ẹ̀yin tẹ́ ti wà káàkiri? Bẹ̀rẹ̀ bá tí èkú tí ń ṣẹlẹ̀ lónìí, ẹ ó mọ̀ pé gbogbo àwọn akúròtù òjìire, gbogbo àwọn tí wọ́n wà ní òkè ọya, gbogbo àwọn tá a wà ní Nàìjíríà, a gbọ́dọ̀ tẹ okùn ṣòkòtò wa tọ̀ tó dáa. Ó dàbí ẹni pé pàkúté àwọn ọ̀kánjúwà yìí, pàkúté àwọn wọ̀bìà, bílíkì, ó dàbí ẹni pé ó fẹ́ mú wa. Àǹfààní wà fún wa nínú ọ̀sẹ̀ tí a ó kọ́ sí láti bọ́ kúrò nínú pàṣẹ náà. Ẹ̀yin tí ẹ gbọ́ ohùn olótú ìjọba ti ìlà oòrùn olórí alákùkọ Dr. Michael Opara ní ìjọ tó sọ̀rọ̀ láìpẹ́ yìí ó kà lọ bẹ́ẹ̀rẹ́bẹ́ irú nǹkan ríbíríbí tí ìjọba ẹgbẹ́ alákùkọ ti ṣe ní ilẹ̀ Ìgbò irú oríṣiríṣi iṣẹ́ tó ní àwọn dálẹ̀ ńbẹ̀ ó kà lọ pọ̀ bí ẹ bá lọ wo ilé tí wọ́n gbé ń ṣe símẹ́ǹtì ní Kalabu owó ìjọba gbogbogbò ni wọ́n fi ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀ bá lọ wo èédú èyí tó wà ní Enugu tí ìjọba gbogbogbò ní nípa rírí àǹfààní yìí láti ọ̀dọ̀ ìjọba gbogbogbò nítorí tí àwọn wà nínú ìjọba náà ọ̀pẹ́ àìmọye ọmọ Ìgbò olóríṣẹ́ ṣe lójoojúmọ́ tí kì í ṣe iṣẹ́ tí wọ́n fi owó ti ìjọba ìlà oòrùn dálẹ̀ owó tí wọ́n fi ti ìjọba gbogbo wa wọ́n fi dálẹ̀ ni àǹfààní tí àwọn ipò alákùkọ rí nínú ìjọba gbogbogbò kò sí ẹ̀yàkẹyà kan ní ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà tó ní irú àǹfààní bẹ́ẹ̀ àwọn ọ̀rẹ́ wa ní òkè ọya àwọn tí wọ́n wà nínú NPC wọ́n lè pọ̀ ní iye nínú ìgbìmọ̀ àpapọ̀ lẹ́kọ̀ọ́ ṣùgbọ́n kì í ṣe tí wọ́n ti pọ̀ ní iye tó bẹ́ẹ̀ ni àǹfààní tí wọ́n rí nínú ìjọba gbogbogbò pọ̀ tó àwọn tó kó àǹfààní náà tó jù lọ àwọn náà ní ipò alákùkọ ìwọ tó ń gbọ́ ohùn mi bí ìrẹ́lùwé ló bá gbé ń ṣiṣẹ́ ni bí airways ló ti ń ṣiṣẹ́ ni bí port authority ló ti ń ṣiṣẹ́ ni bí electricity corporation ló ti ń ṣiṣẹ́ ni bí àrò inú ẹ bí ọ̀dọ̀ fi inú ẹ ọlọ́mọ sọ ọmọ aláfẹ ẹlẹ́kẹ̀ di aláfẹ ọ̀la kì í ṣe nínú ọ̀nà àti ẹnìkan ni wọ́n gbé bẹ́ẹ̀ tì wá sẹ́yìn nínú ilé ẹ̀kọ́ gíga gbogbo oríṣiríṣi ìjọba agbègbè ló ní tiẹ̀ ìjọba ti òkè ọya ní tiẹ̀ ti ìlà oòrùn ní tiẹ̀ ti ìwọ̀ oòrùn ní tiẹ̀ lọ́tọ̀ ṣùgbọ́n a ní méjì àpapọ̀ a ní ilé ẹ̀kọ́ gíga ńlá kan ní Ìbàdàn a ní ilé ẹ̀kọ́ gíga ńlá kan tó jẹ́ àpapọ̀ ní Èkó ó jẹ́ méjèèjì àwọn baálẹ̀ ẹbẹ̀ wọn balógun bẹ̀ ara àwọn ọmọ Ìgbò alákùkọ yìí náà ni wọ́n ọjọ́ tí ajá sì ti ń ṣe lé oko mọ̀lọ́bọ́ wà ó tí ọmọ ọba òsì ẹ̀ ló gbogbo dàńtákìlì òbí ká pé a ó máa wá ọ̀bàwé kiri a kò méjì tán a ní rí kanú méjì náà yóò jẹ́ ọmọ Yorùbá àbí ìwọ tó jí ọmọ Abẹ́òkúta o mọ ọdún àtọdúnmọ́dún táwọn bàbá tó bí yín ti ń lọ ìwé ìwọ tó jí ọmọ Ìjẹ̀bú o mà tọdúnmọ́dún táwọn bàbá yín ti ń gbé ìwé ó wá di ìsìnkú àwọn tí wọ́n ṣẹ̀ṣẹ̀ dé tí wọ́n ṣẹ̀ṣẹ̀ wọnú ẹ̀ wọ́n ń lo ipò wọn èsì wọn ní nínú ìjọba gbogbogbò ọmọ wọn nìkan ni wọ́n ń fi síbẹ̀ ni mo ti sọ fún yín pé nínú ipò ti ìjọba àwọn ni wọ́n fẹ́ kó gbogbo ẹ̀ tán nínú ipò ti ẹ̀kọ́ ipò aṣáájú wọ́n fẹ́ kó gbogbo ẹ̀ tán nígbà àlàyé kan ló wà ń bẹ̀ tó yẹ kó yé yìí níṣẹ́ àwọn tó wà nínú ipò yìí nìkan ló ṣe pàtàkì ṣùgbọ́n gbẹ bá rí ọ̀gá kan wọn níbì kan láìpẹ́ ní gbàkejì ìgbà kẹta ìgbà kẹrin tí èdè ìgbà kẹẹ̀ẹ́dógún tí gbogbo ìpínlẹ̀ yóò jẹ́ kìkì wọn ló wà bẹ́ẹ̀. èyí ni nǹkan tó yẹ kó jẹ́ ìrònú fún ọ àní wọ́n ń gba èèyàn ní ìlú Ìbàdàn èèyàn méjìdínlọ́gọ́fà ni wọ́n gbà ní ilé ẹ̀kọ́ gíga ti Ìbàdàn láìpẹ́ nínú èèyàn méjìléláàádọ́fà náà 112 mọ́kàndínláàádọ́fà ìní kì í ṣí ni wọ́n ti ilẹ̀ ìlà oòrùn wá èèyàn mẹ́ta péré nú ẹ̀ ló jẹ́ Yorùbá ní ilẹ̀ Yorùbá sì nílé ẹ̀kọ́ gíga náà wà ìwọ ọmọ ìyá mi ìwé eléèbó tó ń pọ̀ tó pọ̀ tó dáa Ọlọ́run ní bí ọkọ̀ látọ̀yọ̀ ń lọ́wọ́ o àmọ́ ìbẹ̀rù ń lọ ìdòdó ń lọ oníwọ̀n ó dìde eku kó dáa kí ló fẹ́ tún panú ẹ̀ o oníwèédé ìwédìíran èèbó bọ̀ o ò ní lọ ronú ẹ̀ wò bó bá kàwé tán tó gboyè ìwé kó o pe Ọlọ́run kó fún ẹ lóye nígbà táwọn Ìgbò yìí jẹ pàkúté fún ọ gbogbo téèyàn á lò wọ́n tún ṣe nǹkan tó dáa òun ni wọ́n lò láti fi ṣe pàkúté sí èmú èèyàn wa wọ́n dá ẹgbẹ́ lẹ̀ wọ́n pè ní NTNC tí wọ́n dá lẹ̀ yìí wọ́n wá mú nǹkan wé epo lórí wọ́n sọ di bí ìjẹ̀ èyí tàbí sí orí òjijì tàbí ìwò tàbí ń pẹja wọ́n máa fi ONTNC lóríṣiríṣi tí ó wú ẹni tí ìbá wádìí ọ̀rọ̀ lórí. One Nigeria, one country, one destiny, one Nigeria. Èkejì á ní jókòó ń bẹ̀ ó ń yọ ló ń yọ̀ sí ìwọ́ kàwé èsì ẹ̀ títí ó wá ṣe orí wọ́n ní one Nigeria. Nàìjíríà wọn ò di méjì. Nàìjíríà ẹni orí jẹ tó rí mu àti Nàìjíríà tí ọmọ ti gbogbo ọjọ́ bẹ lọ́hùn. Ó lọ́ọ̀rọ̀ wò ohun tó sì fún àwọn Ìgbò láǹfààní ni pé wọ́n dàpọ̀ mọ́ àwọn Haúsá wọ́n dàpọ̀ mọ́ NPC. Àwa wá ní ìyà tó jẹ́ ọmọ wa yìí tó ó alọ́yà lọ́kànrin lọ́dọ̀ wa Ọlọ́run jẹ́ kí gbogbo wa kárí ṣe ògùn lọ́dọ̀ ọlọ́yà tó jó gboyè tó ń gbàwé tán ọmọwé lóòótọ́ ṣùgbọ́n tó gbọ́ ìbò tó lè fi báyẹ̀ nílò ìbò gbọ́ ọ̀bá ríṣẹ́ ṣe kò parí. Lọ́yà mi ní àní àwọn tó jókòó yìí ọ̀bá àlọ́yà bọ́ lọ́yà ń lọ Yorùbá sí ìgbẹ́ mọ́ òkè ń jọba jẹ́ ká papọ̀ nínú ìjọba gbogbogbò yìí ká lọ fi ọwọ́ sowọ́pọ̀ nínú ètò ti ẹgbẹ́jọdá Nàìjíríà nínú èyí tí ẹgbẹ́ ti NPC ní Òkè Ọya tó wà nínú ẹ̀ nínú èyí tí ẹgbẹ́ ti Dẹmọ ilẹ̀ Yorùbá tó wà nínú ẹ̀ nínú èyí tí ẹgbẹ́ ti MDS tó wà nínú ẹ̀ nínú èyí tí Niger Delta Congress tó wà nínú ẹ̀ nínú èyí tí ẹgbẹ́ ti ilẹ̀ ti ìlà oòrùn náà ẹgbẹ́ ti Dynamic Party tó wà nínú ẹ̀ a fẹ́ fi ọwọ́ sowọ́pọ̀ nítorí a ò fẹ̀rẹ̀ jẹ fún ẹnikẹ́ni a fẹ́ kó jẹ́ nínú ohun rere gbogbo tó wà ní Nàìjíríà ìwọ nípìn tiẹ̀ èmi nípìn tèmi òun nípìn tiẹ̀ kẹ́nìkan má jẹ́ kí ilẹ̀ ọ̀fẹ́ ohun tí a fẹ́ dìbò lé lórí inú ọ̀sẹ̀ tó ń bọ̀ ìwọ abiyamọ tó o fẹ́ kó jẹ́ kìkì ọmọ Ìgbò aláfikọ́ ní ọmọ ríṣẹ́ ṣe ọmọ tiẹ̀ ò ní rí bó bá lọ dìbò ní ọ̀sẹ̀ tó ń bọ̀ lọ dìbò rẹ fún NNA bó bá jẹ́ ilẹ̀ kóòtù òjìlé lọ́wọ́ wà ní Western Region ọwọ́ ẹ ló fi tún ìwà ara ẹ ṣe ọwọ́ ẹ ló fi tún ìgbé ayé ọmọ ẹ ṣe ìbò tọ́ lọ́wọ́ òun ló ti àpótí tó bá rí ọwọ́ lára ẹ̀ òun ló sọ ìbò ẹ sí ìbò tí ó fún orí ọmọ ẹ ṣe ìbò tí ó mú iṣẹ́ wọ ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ìbò tí ó mú iṣẹ́ wọ gbogbo Nàìjíríà ìbò tí ó mú ìṣọ̀kan gbogbo Nàìjíríà wá nìyí ìbò tí ó gbà wá lọ́wọ́ ìrẹ́jẹ àwọn àjòjì gbòdògbò nípa mòrílò mọ́rin wọ́n tó ń gbọ́ ohùn mi láti Èkó wá o bá jẹ àtàtàn tó jẹ tẹ́tàn tó sì fẹ́ jalè nítorí Ọlọ́run máa ronú díẹ̀díẹ̀ bó máa ń kọjá lọ àwọn ọmọ Sùwé ti Balógun àwọn olóko ńlá ń bàdàn ìbò wọn wà lónìí o ìṣọ̀tà ń gbé ń bá àìbátù ní Báṣọ̀run ta ló wà ń bẹ̀ lónìí ìbò ìsọ ti Sùwé ta ló wà ń bẹ̀ lónìí tó bá ń kọjá lọ wọ́n máa ṣí dúró pé gbogbo ibi tí a ti ní kíkọ̀rá òkú o àwọn àjòjì gbòdògbò dúdú ìbò alákùkọ àkọ́ni ń ṣètò kọ́ni wọ́n ń lé yín nítọ̀ tí wọ́n ti ń lé yín lẹ́kọ̀ọ́ bẹ́ẹ̀ ni wọ́n ń gbógun ti àwọn èèyàn wa ní Ìbàdàn ń bí wọ́n fẹ́ bẹ̀rẹ̀ ogun láti gbági láti máa gbà láti ìṣọ̀kan dé ìṣọ̀kan tí wọ́n gba ilé tí wọ́n tán àwa ọ̀ráyè ilé wọn wọ́n tún kó kubi dárì tí wọ́n tún tí ó kubi dárì ń bí bẹ́ẹ̀ wọ́n ń fún àwọn Haúsá ní Òkè Ọya kò wá dàbí ẹni tí Ọlọ́run má kókò wá apá ìmọ̀ pọ̀ kì í ṣe pé a sọ pé kí ipò kó má ní ìpín tirẹ̀ àmọ́ ẹnìkan kì í jẹ́ kí ilẹ̀ ọbẹ̀ tí wọ́n bá ní ìpín tiwọn tán ó yẹ kí àwọn èèyàn tiwa pàápàá ká ní àǹfààní tiwa kò yẹ kí wọ́n fi nǹkan rere gbogbo tó wà láyé tí wọ́n fi wá ẹlòmíà sì sọ pé mo ṣe bí àwọn ọmọ Yorùbá náà èbí wọn nípìn nínú ẹ̀ kò yé tara ẹ̀ jẹ àwọn ọmọ Yorùbá wo ló nípìn nínú ẹ̀ ìgbà tí wọ́n ń bá tàn wá jẹ tí wọ́n pé àwọn akíkọ̀ sílẹ̀ wà nínú ìjọba àtẹ̀pọ̀ àwọn dr Benson wà ń bẹ̀ àwọn tos Benson wà ń bẹ̀ èwo ni wọ́n bá kíkọ̀ sílẹ̀ ìgbà tí wọ́n rí pé mínísítì ti wáyà àti kìíní owó òsì ń bẹ̀ mọ́ ìgbà náà la kíkọ̀ sílẹ̀ débẹ̀ ìwọ́n tó ń sì ń gbóhùn mi ìlú mélòó la kíkọ̀ sílẹ̀ ta wáyà dé láti bí ọdún márùn-ún tó ti débẹ̀ ìlú ibi mélòó olóògbé kọ́kọ́ sáfìsì tuntun ẹ̀bí ẹ̀kọ́ pàdé òsì lójú tí yóò káyà wọ́n rí bí òṣòwò ń bẹ wọ́n gbé lọ ibi tí ó gbé máa jókòó lásán ọmọ ọ̀fìn ìgbó kiri tí ọba sì jẹ́ pé bẹ́ẹ̀ kọ́ lórí ilé láti kẹsàn-án òde ìwọ tó ń gbóhùn mi lápá òkìtì pupa lálẹ́ yìí lọ́ọ̀lú akíkọ̀ sílẹ̀ ó sọ mi pé láwọ̀ ọ̀gbà tó débẹ̀ yìí o nǹkan báyìí ló ṣe fún ìmẹ̀ kò lè ṣe é ipò ní fọmọ Yorùbá tí tí ó gbé ṣe ń tó dáa fáwọn èèyàn òtún lọ tún wo díẹ̀ ń dọ̀ǹtì ibi tó le àwọn ibi iṣẹ́ tí kì í gbé sọ̀yàn dọ̀tá èèyàn bíi ti ibi òṣìṣẹ́ tí wọ́n ń pè ministerial labour tó dàbí ìgbèyàn jókòó lórí àgbá báwọn onígbà tó pọ̀ sí ìgbà láyé àtò àwọn èdè bẹ́ẹ̀ ó rí pé ìkan wọn ò ṣe ministerial labour àwọn ẹlòmíì wọ́n gbé lébẹ̀ wọ́n bá gbé jẹ́ ń dán tó jẹ́ Yorùbá wọ́n gbé lórí àgbá ẹ̀ inú bí tó bẹ́ẹ̀ jẹ́ ọmọlúwàbí tí ò fẹ́ wọ́n sọ orúkọ ohun tuntun burú ẹni tí wọ́n bí níbi níran ló ń bá lóun ò ṣe mọ́ ó lóun ò dìbò mọ́ ó ń ráwọn ẹgbẹ́ alákùnkọ̀ tán òrí ọmọ wa tó bọ̀ alẹ́ pẹ́ǹsì ọlọ́wọ́ bá pè bọ̀ alẹ́ o òrí tó ṣe lọ nígbà ń sọ pé ipò fẹ́tẹ́ lòmí àti kára wọn nìkan bá tìtìtì kò sóyè tí ọ̀jẹ́ nú ẹgbẹ́ ń tán wọ́n lò ń lo omi odò ọ̀nàwó ọ̀nàra ó ṣe gbogbo ẹ̀ ṣébi agbẹ́mẹ̀tì àgbẹ̀kì ló bẹ̀sí kí ló kàn pẹ̀lú wọn lọ́wọ́ ń bò ó di parí ẹ̀ mọ́dé ìnàfẹ́nu ìrònú kọ́ wọ́n gbélé lọ́wọ́ wọ́n bá gbé mo ronú wọ́n lè sì láyà lòun mo ronú tí ò fẹ́ bẹ́ẹ̀ tí ò tó ránṣẹ́ ìgbèrè bẹ́ńkì ló bá wá ń bá aṣọ ogún ẹ jẹ́ káwa àwọn haúsá ní òkè ọya kò wá dàbí ẹni tí ọlọ́run má kókò wá apá ìmọ̀ pọ̀ yìí ṣe pé a sọ pé kí Ìgbò kó má ní ìpín tirẹ̀ àmọ́ ẹnìkan kì í jẹ́ kí ilẹ̀ ọbẹ̀ tí wọ́n bá ní ìpín tiwọn tán ó yẹ kí àwọn èèyàn tiwa pàápàá ká ní àǹfààní tiwa kò yẹ kí wọ́n fi nǹkan rere gbogbo tó wà láyé tí wọ́n ti tù wá ẹlòmíà á sì sọ pé mo ṣe bí àwọn ọmọ Yorùbá náà èdè wọn nípìn nínú ẹ̀ kò ní tara ẹ̀ jẹ àwọn ọmọ Yorùbá wo ló nípìn nínú ẹ̀ ìgbà tí wọ́n ń bá tàn wá jẹ tí wọ́n pé àwọn akíkọ̀ sílẹ̀ wà nínú ìjọba àṣepọ̀ àwọn dm Benson wà ń bẹ̀ àwọn tos Benson wà ń bẹ̀ èwo ni wọ́n bá kíkọ̀ sílẹ̀ ìgbà tí wọ́n rí pé mínísítì ti wáyà àti kìíní owó òsì ń bẹ̀ mọ́ ìgbà náà la kíkọ̀ sílẹ̀ débẹ̀ ìwọ́n tó ń sì ń gbóhùn mi ìlú mélòó la kíkọ̀ sílẹ̀ ta wáyà dé láti bí ọdún márùn-ún tó ti débẹ̀. ìlú mélòó olóògbé kọ́kọ́ sáfì tuntun ẹbí ẹ̀kọ́ pàdé òsì lójú tí yóò káyà wọ́n rí pé òṣòwò ń bẹ wọ́n gbé lọ ibi tí ó gbé máa jókòó. bẹ́ẹ̀ kọ́ lórí ilé láti kẹsàn-án òde ìwọ tó ń gbóhùn mi lápá òkìtì pupa lálẹ́ yìí lọ́ọ̀lú akíkọ̀ sílẹ̀ ó sọ mi pé láwọ̀ ọ̀gbà tó débẹ̀ yìí o nǹkan báyìí ló ṣe fún ìmẹ̀ kò lè ṣe é ipò ní fọmọ Yorùbá tí tí ó gbé ṣe ń tó dáa fáwọn èèyàn òtún lọ tún wo díẹ̀ ń dán ibi tó le àwọn ibi iṣẹ́ tí kì í gbé sọ̀yàn dọ̀tá èèyàn bíi ti òṣìṣẹ́ tí wọ́n ń pè ministerial labour tó dàbí ìgbèyàn jókòó lórí àgbá ẹ̀ táwọn Ìgbò alákùnkọ̀ ti pín láyà tó àwọn èdè bẹ́ẹ̀ ó rí pé ìkan wọn ò ṣe minister of labour wọn àwọn ẹlòmíì wọn gbé lébẹ̀ wọn bá gbé jẹ́ ń dán tó jẹ́ Yorùbá wọn gbé lórí àgbá ẹ̀ inú bí tó bẹ́ẹ̀ jẹ́ ọmọlúwàbí tí ò fẹ́ wọ́n sọ orúkọ ohun tuntun burú ẹni tí wọ́n bí níbi níran ló ń bá lóun ò ṣe mọ́ ó lóun ò dìbò mọ́ ó rà àwọn ẹgbẹ́ alákùnkọ̀ tán òrí ọmọ wa tó bọ̀ alẹ́ pẹ́ǹsì ọlọ́wọ́ bá pè bọ̀ alẹ́ o òrí tó ṣe lọ nígbà ń sọ pé ipò fẹ́tẹ́ lòmí àti kára wọn nìkan gbà á tìtìtì kò sóyè tí ọ̀jẹ́ nú ẹgbẹ́ ń tán wọ́n lò ń lo omi odò ọ̀nàwó ọ̀nàra ó ṣe gbogbo ẹ̀ ṣébi agbẹ́mẹ̀tì àgbẹ̀kì ló bẹ̀sí kí ló kàn pẹ̀lú wọn lọ́wọ́ ń bò ó di parí ẹ̀ mọ́dé ìnàfẹ́nu ìrònú kọ́ wọ́n gbélé lọ́wọ́ wọ́n bá gbé mo ronú wọ́n lè sì láyà lòun mo ronú tí ò fẹ́ bẹ́ẹ̀ tí ò tó ránṣẹ́ ìgbèrè Benson ló bá wá ń bá aṣọ ogún. Ẹ jẹ́ káwa Yorùbá ká pa ìmọ̀ wa sọ o. Ìbò yìí kí wọ́n má ti tú wa ká o. Ẹ má jẹ́ kí wọ́n fi ìbò ìta ilẹ̀ wa jẹ́ kí wọ́n bá aṣẹ wa kí wọ́n bí wa lọ́nà òwò kí wọ́n má jẹ́ àrísọ̀ fàgbésọ̀ kí wọ́n má jẹ́ aráyè mú ìjọba tó o sì tún jókòó mọ́ ìbò pé ọ̀rọ̀ Akíntọ́lá ọ̀rọ̀ Awólọ́wọ̀ ni. O lè torí ọ̀fun àti òkìná bọlé ọ̀rọ̀ Akíntọ́lá kọ́ lélẹ́yìn ọ̀rọ̀ Awólọ́wọ̀ kọ́ yìí. Ó dá mi lójú pé kò sẹ́nìkan tó mọ ipò alákùkọ tó ju Awólọ́wọ̀ lọ. Ó mọ̀ wọ́n tinútinú ó mọ̀ wọ́n dẹ́yìn dáadáa. Ìwọ tó wà á máa pé ọ̀rọ̀ Akíntọ́lá ni. N ò bẹ̀ ọ́ pé kó o fẹ́ràn Akíntọ́lá. N ò ní kó o fẹ́ràn ẹnikẹ́ni. Bọ́lọ̀ máa ń ti fẹ́ràn gbogbo wọn ó ti tán. Ìgbọ́n bó o tiẹ̀ kò níra Akíntọ́lá, wọ́n fi ọ́ ṣètò ó kò níra ọmọ ẹ̀. Àní wọ́n ń gbóhùn jẹ́ lẹ́nu ọmọ ẹ̀. Wọ́n ní ìyàwó ẹ̀ ń sọ. Ìyẹn ọ̀rọ̀ náà ń yẹ jẹ mọ́. O tún ń fi Akíntọ́lá. Yìí máa ṣe yẹn o. Ìbò ìgbàlá wa lálọ́ dì í. Ìbò tí ọmọ ẹ̀ ó fi gbẹ̀yàn lẹ́yìn ọ̀la lálọ́ dì í. Àtúmọ̀ àwọn NDC. Àtúmọ̀ àwọn ti ẹgbẹ́ ti òkè ọ̀yá. Ìṣe nítorí pé a fẹ́ tẹ ẹnikẹ́ni fún wọn. Àwọn náà lọ àwọn fẹ́ rẹ rú. Nígbà tí ẹ̀ ti ń sọ pé a fẹ́ tà ẹ̀ máa wú sáà yìí. Ibi Èkó wà ní ìtòta lọ́mọ wà o. Èkó èdè mẹ́dùgbè ní o. Ìbàdàn èdò bá ó ṣí o. Ọ̀dà amúgbà tá a fi bí ọdún mẹ́wàá, ọdún méje, ọdún márùn-ún ni wọ́n ti ń jókòó pọ̀ tí wọ́n ń jẹ́ gbogbo mùlùmúdù ilẹ̀ yìí tí wọ́n jẹ́ pé pẹ̀lú àwọn Haúsá. Bòdé bì yìí, Ndochukwu, bòdé bì yìí, Nwantukwu, bòdé bì yìí, Nwokedi, bòdé bì yìí, Mbaduwe, bòdé bì yìí, Anuduke. Àwọn nìkan lọ́lọ́run dáyé fún àwọn àkókò tó tí wọ́n náà ráyè jì. Awólọ́wọ̀ ọ̀rọ̀ tó bá jọ làmà sí ìwé wọn. Ẹ jẹ́ ká má tara wa lóṣù. Ká wá rere fún àwọn ọmọ wa. Ká wá rere fún àwọn ẹbí wa. Ká wá rere fún ilẹ̀ wa. Ni mo ti sọ fún yín pé ti ẹgbẹ́ ti alákùkọ, ẹgbẹ́ àwọn arẹ́nijẹni, ẹgbẹ́ àwọn akónitani. Ìgbà tí àwọn tó wà nú ẹ̀rí jẹ́ ọmọ Yorùbá tí wọ́n rí wọn bí wọ́n ti rí. Nítorí ìfẹ́ tí wọ́n ní sí ilẹ̀ bàbá wọn, nítorí pé wọn ò fẹ́rẹ̀ jẹ, wọ́n pa àkùkọ pátápátá. Ìwọ tó o tún kù ńbẹ̀ tó o ló tún máa àkùkọ ní ilẹ̀ Iléṣà dúdú olówó òkú Èkìtì mọ́ lọ. Ní Ifẹ̀ ìwọ tún mọ̀ ju kú pípa ní Káyọ̀dé ti mọ́ lọ. O tún máa àkùkọ ní ìlú Ọ̀yọ́ dùbí bá Afọlábí ti mọ́ lọ. Ó mọ̀ bá kò tó dúdú bàbá mọ̀ bá ti mọ́ lọ. Ó máa ń tẹ́ra ẹ jẹ o. Àwọn tí wọ́n mọ̀ wọ́n tilétilé wọ́n ní wọn ò pé mọ́. Ó yẹ kí gbogbo wa ká yọ ọwọ́ kúrò nú ẹ̀ ká mọ ibo là ń lọ. Ìwọ tó sì jẹ́ ẹgbẹ́ ọlọ́pẹ èmi àtúntàtọ̀pẹ lọ títì. Àwọn ọ̀sánlé onílépo tiẹ̀ lẹ́yìn. Ẹgbẹ́ gidi ẹgbẹ́ òǹpanugbé. Wọ́n ti kú ọlọ́pẹ wọ́n ti dìgbà bó ti pẹ́. Orí àwọn àgbẹ̀ tí wọ́n kówó wọn mọ́ ó ti sùn wọ́n ti dàgbó. Orí àwọn tó jẹ́ pé ṣòwòṣòwò tó ń bẹ lóòrùn tí náwó wà ń bò bí ó ti sọ wọ́n ti àgbó. A sì ṣe ohun ribiribi láti rí i pé a gba gbogbo tí wọ́n bà lọ́ àgbẹ̀, a gba púpọ̀ ẹ̀, a gbà padà fún àwọn àgbẹ̀. Àwọn àgbẹ̀ ilẹ̀ wa jẹ́ lógún láti rí i pé wọ́n dúró tì wá lọ́sàn-án, wọ́n dúró tì wá lóru. Kò mà sí mọ́ o, ẹ má mà jẹ́ ká tan ara wa jẹ o. Gbogbo owó àwọn àgbẹ̀ ta ni wọ́n kó ná. Àlẹ́ nìkan nínú wa lẹ́nu ọjọ́ mẹ́ta yìí, owó orí lásán tí ẹni ọ̀sán lórí owó tó bá owó ẹ̀ ẹgbẹ̀rún ọ̀nà ogún ni 20,000 pounds. Owó téèyàn ò rí tán wọ́n kọ́ pé ọ̀sánwó orí ẹgbẹ̀rún ọ̀nà ogún kò mọ̀ pé ìtọ́wà ní. Ẹ̀jẹ̀ tí a pàtẹ́jọ́ ọlọ́pẹ́ ọ̀pẹ tó jì sàgbó àwọn wo ló ti àákù ńbẹ̀. Bí ò bá jẹ́ pa àkódé tí ń ṣe tipátipá ẹrí wọn mọ́. Àwọn tó kù ní ìbò gbé iró, ìbò dá iró, ìbò bí ìbò bá ń jọ. Gbogbo àdókù ìlú ẹgbẹ́ ọlọ́pàá ẹ̀rù ni. Ẹ sì ní pé gbọ́ ọ̀rọ̀ bó bá tán, èyí tó kù ń gbàgbọ́ yòókù iná náà ni wọ́n ò dá ọlọ́mọ fà ó sẹ́yìn o àwọn wo la tún rí nínú ẹ̀ ọ̀rẹ́ bẹ́ẹ̀ yìí àwọn tó kù nínú ẹgbẹ́ ẹ̀gbá lórí ọ̀rẹ́ bẹ́ẹ̀ lálẹ́yìn tó gbẹ̀yìn gbogbo owó ti fẹ́ ní ẹ̀yìn pátápátá iwájú làwọn màmá lọ o ìbò ọwọ́ ni o dúró gbogbo ń ta níwájú ni yóò ṣe dáa fún àgbẹ̀ yóò ti ṣe dáa fún mẹ̀kúnnù báwo ti ṣe máa ṣe ìyáwó pẹ̀lú ìrànlọ́wọ́ ìjọba gbogbogbò fún gbogbo àwọn àgbẹ̀ tí àwọn oníṣẹ́ owó ti ṣe ti alájùmọ̀ṣepọ̀ pẹ̀lú ìjọba nítorí ìjọba gbogbo wa là ń jẹ́ bẹ́ẹ̀ tí ò ní sí ọmọ ẹgbẹ́ lọ́tọ̀ tí ò ní sí ọmọ ọ̀dọ̀ lọ́tọ̀ tí gbogbo wa ti ṣe ọmọ ẹgbẹ́ lórí ìlẹ̀wọ̀ ìmọ̀ ọ̀rọ̀ sáré kí àwọn àgbẹ̀ àwọn oníṣẹ́ nínú gbogbo ti ìjọba tí wọ́n lọ́wọ́ nínú ètò gbogbo tó jẹ́ mọ́ ìjọba á sì jẹ́ ọ̀rẹ́ pẹ̀lú àwọn tó wà ní ilẹ̀ òkèèrè a máa yọ ẹni níyọ kúyọ sí ọ̀rọ̀ ọlọ́rọ̀ a máa tí àbá lè parí ìjà ní ilẹ̀ òkèèrè ní dúdú a máa wọ ọ̀nà tí a ó fi dá fún òun tí ẹgbẹ́ nna sì ń ṣe òun ni pé kí gbogbo wa a lè gbìyànjú a lè di ọ̀kan náà ní ilẹ̀ nàìjíríà bá a bá mú ọ̀sìn àbúrò tá a mú ọ̀gbìn ní tútù tá a bá sì mú pé èmi ni wọ́n fa gbogbo ẹ̀ kúrò kí ló ń ṣe wá ẹlòmíì á dìde á ní owó lóde mọ́ ọmọ ìtàn rẹ̀ jẹ́ o mo ti rẹ̀ jẹ́ pé owó wà lóde gbà tí ọ̀pára tó ṣírò lọ iṣẹ́ ńláńlá tí wọ́n fi owó gbogbogbò dálẹ̀ nílẹ̀ Ìgbò owó kọ́ ni wọ́n fi dálẹ̀ owó tí ìbá wá sí èyí tí ìbá lọ sí tòmíì wọ́n ń kó lọ́ọ̀lẹ̀ ọ̀dọ̀ wọn ni gbogbo owó sì bí wá kì í ṣọ̀dọ̀ ìjọba gbogbogbò lè polówó bí wá tí màá bá pè lọ́hùn èyí tí ó ti gbọ̀nà rẹ́nùwé wá ọkọ̀ òfurufú tí wọ́n bẹ́ẹ̀ gbé pa odìpọ̀ tábọ̀ ni wọ́n ṣe wọ́n ti lè méjì wọ́n kó gbogbo èyí tó wù wọ́n ti kú ẹ̀rọ ṣe ìwé àwọn oníjọba gbogbogbò tó bá wáyé ní wọ́n náà bá wà lọ́wọ́ lọ́wọ́ a ó ti jọ wà nínú ìjọ èyí tí ndc wà ńbẹ̀ tó tí òkú kan pàtàkì tí gbogbo wa bá ti jọ wà ńbẹ̀ tí àwa náà ní àǹfààní lóye tí àwọn ipò ti ní àwọn ọmọ wa ò rí jẹ àwọn ọmọ wa ò rí mu ìwà àwa náà ó rí ààyè fọkànbalẹ̀ a ò ní jẹ́ ẹni ẹ̀yìn mọ́ àwa náà ó wà níwájú a ó fọlọ́ ìrẹ́jẹ ọlọ́run olódùmarè kò ní fẹ́ tiwa níyà yorùbá àti gbogbo ilẹ̀ nàìjíríà àtàwọn tó wà lókè ọya wọn ò ní fi ẹni ẹ̀yìn láéláé bó bá dìbò ẹ ọwọ́ ni o kì í fún o àtẹ́lẹwọ́ ẹni kì í tani jẹ́ o ó dàárọ̀.
Which I've never read there before. Listen to that. Let me read some to you from Ogunteke's perspective, which I've never read there before, but I think it's probably never read there before. Listen to that. Let me read some to you from Ogunteke's perspective, which
wọ́n náà bá wa fọwọ́sowọ́pọ̀ a ó sì jọ wà nínú ìjọba gbogbogbò nínú NNA tá a bá lè wọ inú ìjọba ti NNA èyí tí NDC wà ńbẹ̀ tó jẹ́ òpó kan pàtàkì tí gbogbo wa bá dìjọ wà ńbẹ̀ tí àwa náà ní àǹfààní lóye tí àwọn Ìgbò ti ní àwọn ọmọ wa ò rí jẹ àwọn ọmọ wa ò rí mu ìwà wa náà ò rí ààyè fọkànbalẹ̀ a ò ní jẹ́ ẹni ẹ̀yìn mọ́ àwa náà wà níwájú a ó fọlọ́ ìrẹ́jẹ ọlọ́run olódùmarè kò ní fẹ́ tiwa níyà yorùbá àti gbogbo ilẹ̀ nàìjíríà àtàwọn tó wà lókè ọya wọn ò ní fi ẹni ẹ̀yìn láéláé bó bá dìbò ẹ ọwọ́ ni o kì í fún o àtẹ́lẹwọ́ ẹni kì í tani jẹ́ o ó ó dàárọ̀.
All right, thank you very much for listening to that. You've been listening to Chief Samuel Ladoke Akintola on Ibos on the 1964-65 elections. That was a campaign speech, and very instructive. I'm looking at some comments in the comment section here on TikTok. Someone says, that's my favorite part, and watch what? Oh, I see. That's nice. Another says, nice to hear the voice of the great leader himself speaking again. Ade says, thank God for technology. We can listen to them till eternity. Absolutely. Great Me 77 says, funny how you also did the same solo. I don't know what you're talking about, but let me know what it is so we can speak on it. Joba Jaguar says, this is why Igbo on a live team during their coup. Open. Yemo says, so sad listening to this. Yeah. And then Odem says, I have missed the speech. Can we have the audio? You can listen to it again on the YouTube channel. That's how you can have the audio. Mr. Lagojo on YouTube says, Sigobu Igba. Wow. Sigobu Igba. Fitonle. New Era says that Akintola called NCNC the party of ethnic cheaters. All right. So I think one of the sides exactly, I mean, it's not, how do I say it now? It's not just something confined to the past in the name of history. It's something that's still happening. And it's important to know these things. And he kept talking about people who were speaking English. So a concern boy and so you to a party a core and things like that. From what they could get and what they found. You see, when we speak, it's not based on hate, it's actually based on fact. The fact is that the entire space was dominated by folks from the southeast. And it's the mentality that you see from that part of the world. They will say it's a lie, but it's normal for people to actually say no to it. Something happened between them. I like to be specific though, but he mentioned something where he said that it's not about Owl versus Akintola, it's just about Yoruba people having the same chances that others have, particularly Ibos, when it comes to the federal government. Sorry, 1 second. Mumbo, I see you're writing comments. I'm going to respond. Just give me a second. All right, so interestingly, I was reading Papa's book and I saw something very similar to what Chief Akintola said. I'm going to read very quickly from Owl's autobiography. It says here, the people of the western region may be divided roughly into two groups, the Yoruba and the non-Yoruba. The Yoruba are a fastidious, critical and discerning people. They will not do anything in politics merely to oblige a fellow Yoruba. If the Yoruba man is satisfied that your policy is good and will serve his self-interest, he will support you no matter from which ethnic group you hail. A large number of them were members and supporters of the NCNC at the time that we took office. As a matter of fact, I heard the view that if in 1951 the NCNC had been as well organized in the rural areas as we were, it should have stood a good chance of winning the elections. The non-Yoruba elements were rabidly anti-action group because they were anti-Yoruba. For years, they had been fed with Dr. Azikiwe's propaganda that the Yoruba hated them, and for that reason had diverted all the good things of the region to their section of it. Furthermore, the vast majority of them erroneously believed the false propaganda that the action group was a Yoruba organization. Consequently, of the 20 members who were elected there in 1951, only 4 members of the action group, and even these 4 were elected on their own personal merits rather than the acceptance of their electors of the action group policy or leadership. There's something else I'm looking for, if I find I'm going to reach you. I'm trying to show you that there is similarities. You find similarities between what Awo said and what Akintola said, right? About how he has succeeded in placing in the mind of Yoruba people that you guys are just being tribalistic, and you don't really have so much going for you, like these other groups and things like that. So the point basically is that the young Yoruba person is trying to prove that he's not the tribalistic, it's not as quote unquote tribalistic like his fathers, but in actual fact, the person telling him that he's tribalistic. So also there's so much noise. Noise, wow. Can you hear me? Is it clear? If you're just joining, please just hold on for a bit. There's no noise. I don't think there's no. Or if other people can hear noises in the background, please let me know. I don't think there's any noise here, because I'm actually monitoring it and it's quite cool here. So if you're just joining on TikTok, you're gonna have to wait a bit. Give me a second. Let me just confirm. Something happened between them. Actually, it's very typical. But he mentions something where he said. Is it better now? Thank you for, Is it better now? Thank you for, calling my attention to that, by the way. But please, just check if it's better now. Let me know. And if it is not, then I'll see if we can do something else about it. Is it better? Much better, Abby. Okay, actually. And thanks to the person who actually called my attention to that. To be honest, I was monitoring it and it was quite good. Maybe the cable shook or something. All right, but I'm glad we're good now. Okay, Kim, also let me know the I say wire. Nǹkan tí mò ń sọ ni wípé gẹ́gẹ́ bí bàbá Ladoke Akintola ṣe sọ̀rọ̀, ó láwọn nǹkan tí bàbá Ọlọ́wọ̀ náà sọ tó jẹ́ pé ó fi bá nǹkan tán sọ nípa pé the goal was to actually reduce your confidence in who you are as a Yoruba person, so that you spend all your time trying to prove that, oh, you're not as tribalistic as your fathers. Meanwhile, the person who is telling you that your fathers were tribalistic, that's his essence. That's what he lives for, right? But then you are busy trying to prove a ridiculous point, despite the fact that this is actually how things play out. I'm going to find you that page. I really need to find it. Give me a second. I'm going to read something to you from Awo's autobiography. Okay. If you want to come up, please, I'm going to bring you up in a bit too, because I would like people to also speak to what SLA said. Okay. I'm about to get to the page. Just give me a second or a moment, I should say. Please don't stop if you're on TikTok, if you're on YouTube and Facebook, please like and share the live. It will be much appreciated. Okay, I found what I was looking for. I found it. So I'm reading from Awo, the autobiography of Chief Akintola. By the end of August 1940, I was certain in my own mind that Dr. Azikiwe was not a conscientious member of the Nigerian youth movement, and that for some reasons best known to himself, he was bent on destruction. At the same time, this is where we're going. At the same time, it seemed clear to me that his policy was to corrode the self-respect of the Yoruba people as a group, to build up the Ibos as a master race, to magnify his own vaunted contributions to the nationalist struggles, to dwarf and misrepresent the achievements of his contemporaries, and to discount and nullify the humble but sterling quota which older politicians had made to the country's progress. Papa wrote this thing in 1960, right? He was reporting something that happened in 1940. SLA is speaking here and is repeating something similar to all of these things about how you've been under this siege of like psy-op, just bombarding your mind with information to make you think a certain way, and the idea basically was to corrode your self-respect to the point where you begin to doubt your own sanity, like, say, am I bigot, am I a tribalistic, whatever. You are busy doing all of those things. Meanwhile, the person who has sent you on this wild goose chase is taking advantage of you while you're all over the place. SLA also mentioned some things that you're going to find in the book called The White Paper on Political Alignment. If you join Redomi Global on Telegram, Redomi is spelled REDOMI Global. If you join Redomi Global on Telegram right now, you'll find a document in the library or in the learning section. It's called White Paper on Political Alignment. And in that paper, it wasn't even Akintola that wrote that paper. It was NCNC people. They began to notice what Akintola had been talking about, right? That these guys were taking over everywhere, whether it was the airport, the airways, or the port authority, or the railway. Everywhere was taken over, including the universities. And SLA also mentioned it in that video. He said it in Yoruba. I was going to actually play a bit and say, so maybe we're going to do that after we've had one or two people. Maybe we'll just play it all over. Of course, not everything because it's quite long. We'll just play and stop and explain. Maybe that will help us to understand it a bit better. I hope that works. But let's see what the person we have trying to come up has to say. After him, I'll just do that. We'll play a bit, then we'll explain. So even if you came late, you can listen to it. But if you want to listen to this after we're done, you can always go to the live section on Busui Oris, and you'll be able to listen to it again. Let's have Bumblebee, and then we'll go on from there. Good evening, Bumblebee. No, please go on.
Evening, Prof.
Hello, please go on. Evening, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much for bringing me up. And so I'll just go straight to my submission. It's very important to understand that we as altruistic people, and when you look at how things played out, the only place where you had so much mixing up and where you had so many other tribes coming around was really in the Yoruba land. And Yoruba land, considering that we had also very, very qualified people in those positions that they were holding, as opposed to the North, where they didn't have qualified people in positions that they were dominating. Now, I listened to be honest, let me just make a comparison in terms of the most populated tribes in Nigeria, between the Hausa Fulani, I would just say between the Fulanis, the Yorubas and the Ibos. I will tell you this for a fact. The Ibos are not very sophisticated in their approach towards statecraft. They are not very sophisticated people, to be honest. And the Fulanis appear, even though the Ibos tend to look at the Fulanis with a condescending eye, the Fulanis are more sophisticated than they are. I've met a couple of Fulani people. They are very smart people. I've met business Fulani people. I've met business executives. I've met government officials that are Fulani people. They are very smart people. They are well read. They are well qualified. So, and when you weigh them on a personal level, on a personal interaction level, on a personality level, they have more personality. They communicate with people better. They treat people better. and they have higher IQ generally. They have a higher IQ and higher. So now, when you look at, so I listened to the monarch from Enugu, and I listened to it when he was saying that why are they not releasing? Why did they release Sunday Igboho and they didn't release Mazen Nnamdi? I listened to it, and this guy was there. Tinubu, you know, this is what most people don't understand. When people are being cautious, they always try to push and keep poking until you lose your cool. Tinubu was there. As the man was speaking, Tinubu was clapping, Onyovife was clapping, just to be cautious, just to, make the whole thing in a very polite way. Now, the man kept saying, drawing comparisons between Nnamdi Kanu and Sunday Igboho. You just need small sense to know that both of them were not doing the same thing. Nobody needs. You just need to have just 2 bits of sense to know that these 2 people, they wouldn't do the same thing at all. And this man was just drawing comparison, but everybody was still, trying to handle him with grace and everything. And I believe that man will never be allowed to speak in a public setting again. Now I went to the comment section. I just kept scrolling in the comment section, and those people were hailing him, doing this, doing that. Just one Igbo person in the entire comment section said, these 2 people cannot compare what Igbo was doing to what Nnamdi Kanu was doing. Did Sunday Igboho order sit at home? Did he order people to destroy things? Did he do this? Did he do that? Only one person in the comment section. And guess what? When they replied to his comment, they were just lambasting the guy. And I think, like you said, it's a cultural thing. They have the saying that an Igbo man is not inferior to anybody. That is not a bad thing. But when you now flip that statement the other way, and an Igbo man is not superior to anybody, but an Igbo man is superior to everybody, that's a problem. It's okay for you to have self-affirmation, but when your self-affirmation begins to bite into another person's self of dignity, that's a big problem. And that is the issue they have. You are not superior to anybody. What we can give you is equality in Nigeria. We cannot place you higher than ourselves. No matter how generous and hospitable we are, there will never be a time where a Yoruba man will put your interest above theirs. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that submission, Bumblebee. And tomorrow I'm going to actually react to that video. I saw it. It's a shame, by the way. And the real shame is that the more people speak, the more you like, okay, maybe those people are actually correct. Where an elder speaks and the young person speaks, and you can't really see any difference. Like you can't see wisdom, you can't see experience, you can't see growth. All you see is essentially just short stories, and it makes you feel like, so how exactly where do you even begin? Where do you even begin? And you're very correct. It's a cultural thing. It's a perspective where it's this worldview that, number one, cannot make the case without comparison. It's not possible. Check it out. Just check. If you think I'm lying, just think about it. Read up on, even now, I don't have to go to the past. Just look at the conversations that you have. You hear people say things like, if you did this to these people, why not do it for us? In other words, it's always based on comparison. You can't just stand on your own. It's also that they will force the comparison. The idea basically is to find a way to make a point, even if your comparisons don't make sense. For instance, like you said, there is nothing that actually, you cannot compare Sunday Igboho and Nnamdi Kanu. And I've said it before, I'll say it tomorrow again. You see, one of the major differences between them, forget even what they did. I mean, they did something, what they did, of course, was different. But beyond the action is actually the culture. And I don't know if people really understand what was happening. You have a culture where as soon as the guy rose, everybody became subservient to him. They were bowing to him and calling, singing, "Holy, holy, holy, holy," and almost licking his butt essentially. Nobody could talk to him. There was no leadership structure. The one that called himself king yesterday, these people make me laugh. Ibos have no kings. The concept of leadership is foreign. And so when you see somebody, you see him as a messiah. And that person, for some reason, because he wasn't raised with order and structure, also assumes that he is not more knowledgeable than every other person. With all Sunday Igboho's faults, and it was not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, he had his issues. But there are people that could say, and I've said it before, you don't know what blessing God has given you if you have a person in your life that can tell you stop. And if you don't, even your own personal life, you've got to have somebody. There has to be one person that will say, sit down, you're not going out today. It could be your wife, it could be your mentor, it could be your pastor, it could be your leader, it could be whatever, or your boss. There has to be someone that can actually, if you have nobody to stop you, you are a danger to the world, you're a danger to yourself. And if you come from a structure where nobody cares about hierarchy, where everybody is a lot to themselves, you are a problem to the collective, because nobody can stop you. You are on your own. This guy was actually telling lawyers what to do. I'll talk about it tomorrow. We're all there now. When the legal aid people, guys who were actually offering their services for free to Nnamdi Kanu last month, said they were not doing again. Why? Because he was telling them what to do. Omotosho, show me the law. And you see an elder go on a platform like that, and he's making comparisons and talking as though, and that's the point. Always breaking ranks. No. Just have this disdain for structure. Why should we have anything? Can it consult? I saw those things yesterday, and I like what the Oni said. We'll play it tomorrow. The Oni responded sharply, and I like the response. If you are here, stay here. It's a shame because, number one, the president can no longer do anything about this guy. No, even if he's going to do anything, it can't be now. You can't just grant pardon. This guy has to go to appeal court. Look at all the years. When they got him released the first time, what happened afterwards? He was insulting everybody, including the so-called leaders, if you can call them that. Anyway, everybody will be fine. I just don't think this is how, and that's why I say that. You see, I like to understand where people are coming from. I don't want to ever judge you based on my worldview. I think it's not fair. And that's the reason I speak the way I do about Igbo thing. Igbo matter is just Igbo matter. Like, if you try to judge, and it's actually the fair thing to do. It's not good to judge a person based on your own worldview. Right? I cannot ask an Igbo man to prostrate. It's not his culture. The question is there respect in their culture? If they have it, good. If they don't have it, that's all right. Just make sure that it doesn't come to my side. You get? It's the same thing when it comes to respect for order. And I've noticed everybody's always proud saying that we bow to no man. We only bow to Chi, until you saw people bowing to Kashim Shettima. Maybe it's the Chitima or whatever. Anyway, Great Tommy says he got his bail and Igbo got his bail. Why are they crying? Because he flattered his own bail condition. Igbo did not even get bail. Igbo was in Benin Republic, house arrest. Igbo just got his own pardon. Peter and the other guy cannot get it because of the way they are running their stuff. You are telling your lawyers, you had SANs, SANs, you push them away. Then you have these other people, they told those ones to consultants. Then those ones will come on radio and be telling us, everybody will be fine. I don't think it's the same thing everywhere, to be honest. And then the other thing you said, I want to quickly speak on it before I bring someone else up. Well, you were comparing Fulani and Ibos. I think it's unfair. And I'll tell you why. And I'm not saying that because you are wrong. It's not like you are wrong, but it's unfair. You see, Fulani they may not have the advantage of Western education like the Ibos did, right? And the reason, of course, was because the British, working with the Fulani leadership, did not allow Western education to get to the north, since they didn't want missionary activities in the north. But when it comes to statecraft, there is no basis of comparison between the Fulani and the Igbo. There's no basis. These guys, even if you don't know anything about them, you don't know about Futajalon or Futatoro, you know nothing about, their journey in Gambia, whatever. Just look at what they have done in Hausa land. And how they also ventured into Kanuri land, into TV land, into all those places. They were pushed back in some places. They were pushed back in Yoruba land. They were pushed back among the Kanuri in the Middle Belt. But they conquered the Hausa land. And in conquering Hausa land, look at what it would have taken. If you sit down to think about it, that's why I always say that this man, Tonkwe Newsman, was very bright. If you look at what it would have taken for you to change the kings of the people, even today, Fulani is about 6 to 8% of Nigeria's population. They're not many. They're not many. You study Fulani and the way they took over Hausa, and you understand how you have just few soldiers in your NYSC camp. You could have an NYSC camp full of 2,000 corpers, and you don't need more than 20 soldiers. That's what Fulani did in the north. You don't do that kind of thing and not teach your children statecraft. In fact, you don't have to teach them. They can see it. They see it. What kind of statecraft would you have in the East? It never existed. There was nothing like that. That's why when people say all these things, listen. If you go into my past, don't try to make don't make anything up to make me happy, because if you do, you are destroying me. If you go back now and say, for instance, in the year 13th century AD in Ife, we sent people to the moon. And we had space suits and everything. It's to make you happy, but it's a lie. We did not do it. That's what it means when people say things like, "Oh, they had this sophisticated political land before colonialism." It's not true. The people that are now the kings, the warren chiefs, that thing was created by the British. They never really evolved to the point of having complex political structures. The Fulani did. I don't have to like their system. It's feudal. I don't like it, but that doesn't mean I cannot appreciate what it would have taken them to create that kind of thing, where they're able to have kings. I mean, think. But if you read, there's a book I want to. Do I remember the book? It's a book by Lord Lugard. I'll see if I can find you the title. I have it somewhere here. Timbari Masofuni. It's in 2 volumes, right? When he was talking about the structure that the North had, right? It was just so perfect for them. I mean, think about it. Why do you think we have indirect road system in Nigeria today? It was because of the Fulani. The British got to the north and they were like, seeing how these guys were organized, they didn't want to even, rock the boat. They just plugged in. So they would, control the people through the emirs. It's the same thing. So when they came to Yoruba land, they were trying to do the exact same thing. But what they didn't realize is that although we had kings, our kings did not have absolute power. They had no absolute authority, unlike the folks in the north. In Yoruba land, the king can be questioned because there's a judiciary. The Ogboni, they can question the king. In the north, it wasn't like that. Because the king is essentially a feudal lord. Again, these don't talk about advantages or disadvantages of what they were doing, but the point is that they had evolved to the point where they could create something. Even though they were fewer in population, they could organize an entire population of a larger group, and even in some interesting ways, create an hyphenated identity. So when you hear Hausa Fulani today, it is not a real identity, it's a political construct. But it works. And it works to the point that if you're a Hausa and you want to get into some places, like you want to go to get to the top, to the echelons of power, you may even want to start telling people that you're Hausa Fulani. It's the way they constructed it. Now, again, very, very complex, but it's not today's topic. I'm just saying that to now compare those people with a group that had something called acephalous communities. Acephalous means that it has no fixed head, no defined headship or leadership. And until recently, Ibos used to be proud of it. I think it's now that they discovered that, oh, that thing actually shows like, it's not like it's bad, it's just that you are way behind. Like Yorubas also were there, everybody was there in this world. It's just that some people, we left that level, and I'm not joking, we left that level before Christ. That acephalous community or autonomous community, we used to be like that before Christ was born. When we start creating confederacies in Ife. But if people are now waking up, anytime you wake up is your morning. So there's no problem about that. It's just that you cannot come from that part of, you cannot come from that kind of reality and then tell other people how to run stuff. You don't even know what it means to run anything. And what you should do is you sit down, you watch those who do, you see their mistakes, you see what's good, you learn, and then you do it. Not to be not guying. If there's any English like that, if you don't get it, forget about it. You are not guying there. You're trying to actually look into another person's space to teach the person how to do something you have never tried where you're coming from. It's ridiculous. And that's the funny thing about Nigerian story. Makes everybody think that we're on the same level. So you're right. The Fulani and the Igbo are different. As far as politics is concerned, they are totally different. And that's why they've been able to control as much as they have. And if you think I'm lying, check out the population figures of the Fulani in Nigeria today. Their influence is not proportionate with their numbers. And they got that through politics. All right. Flower says, what was Yoruba called before Christ was born? Who asked that question? No, I don't have to answer you. Your entire ethnicity was named by the British. There's no common Igbo identity before the British came. So since you asked that question, let's stay with you. There's no collective Igbo identity before the British arrived, right? So you don't get to ask that question. Okay, you're talking to people who have the same ancestry. Deflect much? No. That's not okay. You know what? Let me answer it this way. Maybe you're going to understand. I don't owe you the explanation, to be honest, because you never reach. But here's the thing. It's from Oluku. Oluku means confidant or friend. When you go to Delta State, they say some people being called the Olukumis. Right? So sometimes they call us Olukumi. Some people call us Aku. They call us different names. And the thing about the world, about the names of countries, it could either be an exonym or an endonym. And many countries in the world had names that they call themselves. Some people have names that others call them. E.g., Wales. Folks in Wales don't call themselves that. I don't know how to pronounce it. I think it's Cymru, Cymru. That's what they call themselves. So if you are thinking about, oh, they called you this, they called you that, well, that's because people call other people names. But you shouldn't be worried about Yoruba identity, considering that you guys are still fighting amongst yourself who is Igbo and who is better Igbo. So thank you very much. First, Sean. Some people also call us Anogo. So we are called different things by different people. They call us Aku because we're always greeting Ekule, Ẹkáàbọ, Ekuoso, Ekukinikon. So they start calling us Aku. Okay. Some people say Anogo, Lukumi, Yoruba. It doesn't really matter. But we know that we have a common ancestry, common origin, myth, and so on and so forth. You guys don't even have the same myth. I don't think you should be asking questions like this, to be honest. I don't think we can concentrate on you. But let's just be fun, eh? God bless you. And Chairman Igbo, Kini Baba Akintola, bye. I think we'll have. Someone says, how come Yoruba talk and you left your original derogatory name, not Yoruba? Please mute when you come up. Igbo is derogatory, not Yoruba. Yoruba, please mute. Oh. Igbo is derogatory. Yoruba is not derogatory. Okay? And That's the thing. You should be concerned about. I don't want to tell you the meaning of Igbo, right? But Yoruba is not derogatory. People could twist a word and use it to insult you. It doesn't mean that's the meaning of the word. So Yoruba is not a derogatory word. And all the nonsense that you guys talk about on social media, yeah, about this, yeah, about that, all those things. No, that's not. Flower says Igbo is not derogatory because even ancient Igbo sites have Igbo in it, but I'm listening. Guys, please give me a second. I'm going to read something to you from Igbo English French dictionary. Will I say you want to hear how people got pregnant in your family? You will hear a story today. You know what? Let's have math tuition while I find you that page. I will tell you the meaning. I won't even tell you. I will read to you what Igbo means. Math tuition, please go on.
Good evening, House. Good evening,
Ẹkáàbọ.
Yeah, it's a fascinating discussion. It's interesting how history and reality collides. In the light of, I want you to pass a comment on President Tinubu's statecraft. During colonial times, we had the House of Chiefs that the colonialists took advantage of and all of those things. And we've never had any president really lean into our ancestral heritage, because we know that there are many kingdoms and empires in this space called Nigeria. And in the light of what Mr. President did yesterday by doing a health program in quotes to develop the capacity and link it with the leadership of the chiefs and kings and emirs across the Federation of Nigeria, I thought that was innovative. I'd like you to pass a comment on that. Unfortunately, in the light of that statecraft, we now had the so-called easy from Enugu talking nonsense. And this is exactly the point we are making, that our Igbo brethren need to understand. Even if you have a dissent, should you be saying it in public in the face of Mr. President?
Is that how kings talk?
I'm telling you, sir. Should you be saying that in the presence of all dignitaries across the space called Nigeria? My brother, it's sad, honestly. And this should make our Yoruba people understand that by the grace of God, we are not arrogant, but culturally, we are not the same. Certain groups are not the same. We need to admit that, we need to respect that, and people do their art until they evolve higher. So yes, so it's really interesting to hear that. Been going all over Yoruba land, especially in Osun State, and identifying old Yoruba towns with long history. And unfortunately, many of them are dilapidated, but there are so much opportunities. I don't know if you've seen that a couple of that guy's video. I sent one of them to you when he did about the history of and I thought it's okay. All right, I'll rest my case on that one. Then we can talk about the other later. Thank you, sir.
Please. I'll check the video. I'll check what you sent to me. Might check it out and then respond. So I don't also go too far away from the topic. But what you mentioned about the king, that one, I'm going to play the video tomorrow because I think people should have context. So we'll do that tomorrow. We'll play the video and then we'll speak on it. And you are very correct. You see, if you're from a culture where the idea of leadership is foreign, you will do what happened yesterday. You will have issues amongst yourself as quote-unquote kings, because I don't even think these are kings, as kings, and then you go and say it to the president in presence of other kings. You would not raise that matter amongst yourselves. You just bring it to the public glare to tell everyone what issues you're having as traditional rulers, kings. You now come like primary school children to tell the world. You're in front of your principal and head teacher, or what do you call them, head mistress, to say, oh, see our problem. You now tell the world exactly what the issue is so that you can prove that you are a king. It is funny. And that's why, by the way, what they're doing with southern thing, maybe they should just leave it alone the way it is. Some people, it's going to take them another God knows how long to be able to come to terms with what it means to actually have leaders. You know, you hear people speak and like, if elders speak like this, why are you angry that children are speaking like the way they are speaking on Twitter and on X and on TikTok? Elders, the fathers are speaking like this. So how much wisdom do you expect from young ones? The concept of leadership is foreign. Like, you can't, there's some things you don't say. I mean, it's not like you're lying. It's just like being a father. Imagine you're a father, then everything that happens in your household, you're just saying it because you want to prove that you are liberal. It's crazy. But thank you very much for that submission. I want to read something to you, Flower, because he asked me a question. I think it's important to mention it. I've never done this before, and I'll find a way to do it in such. I'll make sure it's subtle so it doesn't hit too hard. But we're going to read this. And I'd love to read this with my face on the camera so I can see while I'm reading it. But I'll read this one. This is called the Igbo English French Dictionary. There are 2 volumes here. I'm going to read the 2 volumes. The one is called Igbo Ibo. The meaning is actually slave, the name given to the tribes east of the Niger. If you read, I just read one. I'll read the other one. If you read, you record it with my face so you can actually hear. Let's not put some Akintola out there when they are saying this part. If you read Among the Ibos by G.T. Basden, one of the things that the Onitsha people told them was that they were not Ibos. Onitsha would not use that word to describe themselves because they understood the meaning. They said everybody to the east was Igbo, everybody to the west was Enoani. And it's because Igbo doesn't mean what you're writing in the comment section. And this is why I said, I'm even trying not to go, I don't want to go deep into it because the second one is even worse. Let me just leave it. See, be you. Grow at your pace. If it takes you how long, or no matter how long it takes you, that's fine. But stop this thing where you think you don't have opinions on your matter. You even have your opinion, just have opinions on your matter and grow. The reason you guys act the way you do, it has to do with your origins, and I don't like to talk about it. And of course, because I know they are good people and they are good people. I don't want to, because if I shoot, I will put the video out if I speak, and that's why I don't like to go into it. I'll put it out, you cry, you eat your head on the stove, you wake up, you still get angry, it doesn't matter. The point is that you act the way you do because of your origin, and you have not come to terms with it. And I'll give a very good example. You say I should do, you actually need it, don't worry, I'll do it on camera, because I want you to see my face when I'm telling you. Your history is not different from that of the Slavs. What we went through under the Ottoman Empire, you went through that same thing, and there are people that actually made sure you went through those things. Those people are your neighbors today. They are the Benins, they are the Shekiris, they are the Jaws, they are the Ikweres, they are the Calabars, folks in Calabar, the Efiks. What the Slavs, I'm not going to say anything, just go and read as I'm saying it, draw the comparisons. This is where you should be comparing things. Just look for what the Slavs went through under the Ottoman Empire and what the Ibos went through in the hands of the Ikwere, the Benin, the Shekiris, the Ijos, the Efiks, and the Ikwere, and which other one? The Shekiris. I think I mentioned that already. Go and read it. I've mentioned sources, Flower. I've mentioned already. I've mentioned Igala. Thank you, Jabajagwa. Igala. Particularly in the northern part of Igbo land. Look at what those, in fact, let me go through the names again. Benin, Ishekiri, Ijo, Ikwere, Efiks in Calabar, and the Igala. And if you really want to, I don't like to talk your history because it could be like that they insult, but just go and do your own studies. Those, I'll give you 6 ethnic groups apart from yourself. What did they do to you? How did they undo you? Can you compare that? You should compare that with what happened to the Slavs in the hands of the Ottoman Empire, and they went through that for 400 years. You went through that for a while, and your name reflects that. Just like the word, by the way, I mean, it's no big deal. Slav, right, is the etymological root of the word slave. When you use the word slave, the word slave is actually, it has its the etymology of that word, or the root of that word, is actually Slav. The people became so synonymous with bondage that the name of that ethnicity became the word used for those who have lost their freedom. Slave. If you don't become, if you don't face it, if you don't confront that history, and I'm trying not to, I hope I'm not coming across as, but here's the truth. If you don't confront the reality of your past, you will never go beyond it. You will always act like it, even when you are trying to prove that you're not that. You'll be acting that character. Like it happens everywhere. So go and do your research. I'm not going to say more than that. But when you're talking Yoruba, please don't bother getting involved. Like you've not even where you are today, where you guys are just getting into today with what the king did yesterday. It's a reflection of where Yoruba people were more than 1,000 years ago. And I'm not doing this even. Did I say more than 1,000? Of course, I said more, Abby. Okay, more. More than 1,000 could be 2,000 years.
No, I think Nigeria we should speak up in this country, not so that it can create wahala.
No, I think Nigeria should really begin. We should speak up in this country, not so that it can create wahala, but so that everybody knows exactly you are you know where you belong. There are certain things you don't, and that's the reason, for instance, the history book matter that came up the other day. People were saying, they didn't include Igbo when they were talking about kingdoms. Why would they include you? You didn't have those things. You can't now start creating history for people because you want to prove a point. It's like saying that you want to write about, the pyramids of Giza. Why are you not putting Yoruba people there? How many pyramids in Romiko? Why should I be angry that when they're discussing pyramids, they're talking about Sudan and Egypt, they don't talk about Yoruba land?
Pyramids like they did in Sudan or in Egypt.
Because we didn't, even if we had mounds, we didn't build pyramids like they did in Sudan or in Egypt. Why, if I don't have inferiority complex, which is actually the problem of many people in this country, why should I want to be featured in that particular part of history? The thing about this, I'm saying, why am I not there? Why? We didn't build sphinxes we didn't have that kind of thing in Ife. But if you're talking about Okwaronyo, if you're talking about other monuments, we'll feature. But the things that we didn't do. You didn't even have the capacity. Talking about kings, people are angry and saying things like, why did you not mention us? Why would they mention you? You didn't even have the capacity to organize yourselves that way. What are you talking about? Nigeria just has this very funny thing of pandering to people and saying we are all Nigerians. We should also make history for people. What rubbish! The Hausas, if you go through their own history and look at the Bajida story, even if it's a myth, even if you think Bajida is a myth, at least you know Queen Amina. You know Queen Amina of Zazao. That was long before Osman Dan Fujo. You know Orokpotoni of Oyo. You know Luo Gbagida of Ife. Give me one example where you are from. You will not find. Does that mean that something is wrong with you? You know Osemawe of Ondo. You don't have that kind of story where you come from. It's ridiculous. All of this because somebody asked me one funny question in the comment section. We'll just leave that and we'll continue, Jerry.
Were you typing that to me or were you referring to your parents?
Flower.
Whatever you say,
were you typing that to me or were you referring to your parents? Please write in the comment section. Whatever you say, tell me what I'm going to do to you. What you wrote in that comment section was Was that for me or for your parents?
You shouldn't be saying this to anybody else apart from your parents.
And when I say for your parents, anybody else apart from your parents, you say no to you. So okay. Now comment people are the reason with okay. Thank you very much for clarifying that because it's important. Please, when you are talking to people, try to be writing their name in front of it so that you can speak to them directly. I beg. We play, but no, I know they play that kind of play. I beg. You can't talk to me like that, though. May God bless you. All right, where were we? We have one more person who wants to come up. We'll have that person, and then we'll listen to a little bit of Baba SLA. First Sean, good evening.
Hello, First Sean.
Hello, First Sean. Okay, I think he's busy, or maybe he sent a request mistakenly. All right. Again, see, let me try and use this one to balance it out. Many people that say people are angry. Every culture has something they're working on. There's no perfect culture in this world. Even my own is not perfect, right? But we know our limitations, okay? And it is wisdom to acknowledge your limitations. It is foolishness to insist that you are the same with others. It doesn't make sense. Okay, so you acknowledge where you are and then you grow from there. The mistake that we are making is that we assume that because we are Nigeria, we are one. We are not. We are several nations with several different histories and clearly different civilizations. Some people, and where we are, to be honest, we should be higher than this as Yoruba people, to be clear. Like, this is not, I'm not celebrating mediocrity. However, we have something to build on, which is the beautiful thing about it, right? So I can say, we should have gone beyond this, so see where we did. But I can still acknowledge what my fathers have done and say, okay, I can build on this thing and go further. If you come from a place where they've not accomplished what my grandfathers, I mean great-great-great-great-grandfather from 1,000 years ago, what they accomplished, and I'm even, you cannot find an example about our law where you are from, let alone Oduduwa. So let's not start doing all these comparisons because it gets me irked, and the reason is because I think it's disrespectful. It's the same way I can't say that we're talking about those who have gone to the moon, and I'm saying Nigeria versus United States of America. Like, it makes no sense. It's the same way. Yoruba versus USA. Hopefully we'll be able to send people to the moon very soon. But you get the point, Sha. Let everybody respect themselves. That's be okay, so let's all of us respect ourselves. May God bless every ethnic group. But I think we should listen to some part of SLA again, and I'll be, stopping and explaining because it's in Yoruba. And also I've got those songs by sometimes they require context. But thank you very much, Master Tuition, for coming up. I'll bring you back up later. Thanks a lot. All right, so let's go back to Baba. Okay. SLA, Samuel Ladoke Akintola. And this, by the way, was a speech he gave during the campaign for the 1964-65 elections. Take a listen, please.
Gbogbo àwọn oníṣẹ́ ọwọ́ àti gbogbo àwọn àgbẹ̀ àti gbogbo àwọn aṣáájú wọn nípa gbogbo ọkùnrin àti gbogbo obìnrin àtàṣe ní ìfún ọmọ ìgbà àti ìròyìn ìbò èyí tí a ó dì nínú ọ̀sẹ̀ yìí a ó dì í pẹ̀lú ìbà Ọlọ́run Olódùmarè pẹ̀lú ìbà àtiwáyé ọjọ́ pẹ̀lú ìbà àtiwọ̀ oòrùn Ọlọ́run ní jẹ́ kó fún yín. Ìbò náà ṣe pàtàkì púpọ̀ ju èyíkéyìí tá a fi ní ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà lọ rí. Ó ṣe pàtàkì nítorí àyọrísí rẹ̀ pàápàá ohun pàtàkì òun yóò jẹ́. Abo ni Ọlọ́run yóò jẹ́ kí ìbò náà tí ó fi sí kékeré àti àgbà wa. Nínú ìbò tí a ó dì nínú ọ̀sẹ̀ tí a ó bọ́ sí yìí, a ó ní àǹfààní láti yàn irú ìgbé ayé wo ni a fẹ́ gbé. a ó ní àǹfààní láti yàn nínú oríṣiríṣi ọ̀nà èyí tó yà yẹ́lẹyẹ̀lẹ níwájú wa. Ọ̀nà ìyè nìyí lẹ́gbẹ̀ẹ́ kan, ọ̀nà ikú nìyí lẹ́gbẹ̀ẹ́ kejì. Ọlọ́run ò ní pa wá ní kékeré. Ọ̀nà àríjẹ nìyí lẹ́gbẹ̀ẹ́ kan, ọ̀nà àríjẹ nìyí lẹ́gbẹ̀ẹ́ kejì. Ọlọ́run ò ní pa wá lóṣì. Ọ̀nà tí àwọn ọmọ wa rí ṣe, tí wọ́n rí jẹ, tí wọ́n rí mu, tí wọ́n tú ọmọ fún àwọn òbí tó bí wọn, tí wọ́n sì lè ní ìgbádùn ní ìgbé ayé wọn, ó wà níwájú wa. Ọ̀nà kí á sì bí àwọn ọmọ lọ bẹ́ẹ̀rẹ́bẹ́ẹ́, kí àìrí ṣe àti àìrí jẹ àti àìrí mu, ó sọ púpọ̀ nínú wọn di ọmọ jàgùdà, ó wà níwájú wa. Ọlọ́run kò ní jẹ́ kí ẹ tú jàgùdà. Gbogbo ẹ̀yin ọ̀dọ́mọkùnrin àti ọ̀dọ́mọbìnrin tẹ́ ẹ sì gbọ́ ohùn mi lálẹ́ yìí, Ọlọ́run ò ní ṣe yín ní jàgùdà. Ṣùgbọ́n nígbà tí a bá ń sọ̀rọ̀ ìbò, wọ́n ní mọ̀ ọmọ àmì kan ní mọ̀. Ẹlòmíràn bí ọ̀rọ̀ ìbò ti yé sí ní ìbá èyí tó kà nípa ètò ìbò dídì ní ìlú Amẹ́ríkà àbí ní ìlú Gẹ̀ẹ́sì. Torí náà ojú tí ó fi ń wo ìbò ti ìlú Amẹ́ríkà àti ti ìlú Gẹ̀ẹ́sì ni ó fi ń wo ìbò dídì ní ilẹ̀ wa. A yàtọ̀ púpọ̀ sí ara wa nínú ìtàn wa, nínú ìrírí wa pẹ̀lú àwọn òyìnbó, a yàtọ̀ díẹ̀. Ètò ìbò ní ọ̀dọ̀ wa ó sì yàtọ̀ pẹ̀lú. Èso tí ń so pàápàá ó yàtọ̀ pẹ̀lú. Àwọn kan wà nínú àwọn tí wọ́n rò pé ìbò dídì ní ohun eré lásán ni, kò yẹ ká fi ṣe ìjà. Ẹni tó bá bọ́ sí lọ́wọ́, ó bọ́ sí lọ́wọ́ ẹ̀ náà ni. Èmi kò bá àwọn irú èèyàn báyìí jiyàn, ó sì yẹ kó rí gan-an wọ́n wí. Ṣùgbọ́n ẹ ṣe àkíyèsí nínú ìtàn tiwa nígbà tí a rí mọ̀ nípa ọ̀rọ̀ ètò ìbò dídì, ó dàbí ẹni pé ó jẹ́ pàkúté èyí tí à ń tẹ́lẹ̀ fún ara wa. Ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ àwọn ènìyàn ni wọ́n ń lo ìbò dídì láti fi ṣe òfin èyí tí wọ́n fi mú àwọn ẹlòmíràn, tí wọ́n fi sọ àwọn ẹlòmíràn dẹrú. Nípa ètò ìbò dídì yìí, ó dàbí ẹni pé àwọn mìíràn tí wọ́n wà níwájú rí àti fà wọ́n sẹ́yìn. Àwọn ẹlòmíràn wọ́n fi ń bẹ àwọn ènìyàn wa láti tì wá sí ipò èyí tí a ó gbé di ẹni ẹ̀yìn. Ọlọ́run kò ní ṣe wá ní ẹni ẹ̀yìn. Bí àpẹẹrẹ, àwọn Ìgbò alákùkọ wọ́n ti sọ ìbò di nǹkan mìíràn ní ilẹ̀ wa lónìí. Wọ́n ti lo ìbò dídì yìí láti fi jẹ gàba lórí ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ oríṣiríṣi ẹ̀yà ní ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà.
All right, so a quick interpretation. Sorry for those who are just coming in. The idea basically is he's saying that, of course, this was 64, 65, that a lot of Nigerians at the time, or Yoruba people, when they discuss the idea of elections, they are using America as the basis of their understanding. So they're saying, oh, elections should just be as easy as it is. After all, they're doing it in America. And something you also hear today, you can't say one word before somebody says, oh, but in America. They've forgotten that this is 2026. I mentioned it a lot because it's a pivotal year for Americans. This year, the United States will be 250 years since it has been a nation. Okay, it's been around before then. I mean, the Mayflower, the what's it called? This, Pilgrims. The Pilgrims that went to Mayflower and the old Plymouth thing, they went there long before 1776, but it's been a nation since 1776. You know, but we don't usually account for that when we say things like, oh, see what they're doing in America. What he's saying is that we can't have a conversation about the elections in Nigeria just like they're doing in the US. And he mentioned that our Igbo Alakuko, the reason he called them Igbo Alakuko is that NCNC logo at the time was a cock or cockerel. Okay. Action group was palm tree, NPC was a hoe. So essentially, what it's saying, and then it says Igbo Alakuko, is saying Igbo Alakuko because by 64, in fact, long before 64, starting around in the 1950s, actually, they had successfully ethnicized the party. NCNC was not an Igbo party. NCNC was formed in Lagos, right? It was formed in Lagos, and it was like an amalgam of four different NNDP, that was about our colleagues' original party. They formed in 1923, Nigerian National Democratic Movement, that encompassed, students from high schools across, that's part of the country, Lagos, Abeokuta, and so on and so forth. So you have people like Reverend Oludoto Ransom Kuti, Fela's father, who was leading, I think it was Abeokuta Grammar School. So they had, people from those places becoming part of the NCNC that they were, starting. And then you had the Lagos Market Women Association, and you had the leader at the time was Mama Kwelewura, Alimoto Kwelewura. Her deputy, interestingly, was the one who turned out to, she eventually became the leader of the market women. Abibatu Mogaji, that's the mother of our president, President Tinubu. She was deputy to in Lagos Market Women Association. And then you had those are the bodies that came together to form NCNC. And then, of course, you had about Macaulay as the leader. By the middle of the 1950s, they had worked it so that the party had become, according to AI Adele, Igbolized. Okay, so it had become an Igbo party. They moved the headquarters, so to speak, from Lagos to Enugu. Everything was going on from Enugu. The party was taking over. Okay, opportunities that could go to anybody would go to Ibos because they had dominated the party. And if you read the book the book is called, I think it's Second World War Nigerian Politics. It should be G.O. Lusoya. Read that book, you understand more about how the entire thing changed from being a national party that it was to essentially an Igbo party. Of course, you still had the Yorubas in Lagos and in Ibadan who were still flying the NCNC flag, but the engine on Tigbelosi Ilaono. So that's why I call them Igbo Alakuko. And it was saying that what they have done is to use the political process to gain inroads into different parts of Nigeria. I said something when we're discussing what Awo did in the North, 1959, that constitutionally Papa was right, but culturally he probably should have done it a different way. It's the same thing you have with this thing, where you can, any small thing, be shouting, where's Constitution? What the Constitution say? You now use the Constitution to essentially rob people of what's theirs. I'll give you an example. Last election, reports said between 200,000 and 300,000 voters' cards were moved from the east to Lagos. Think about that for a second. Between 200 and 300,000. I heard this from INEC, by the way, and there's a video of it, right? Between 200,000 to 300,000 voters' cards were moved from the southeast to Lagos for the election. You begin to wonder, it's a person using the machinery of government or the electoral process to actually get something for his own people in another person's land. And you probably say, oh, I'm very smart, I found the loophole. But what you have done now is to show people that you don't have common sense. You don't know where to stop. That the plan is to use politics to gain domination across the nation, and that everybody should work according to whatever their plan is. And if you don't do that, then they insult you and come for you on the pages of the newspapers. Let me quickly say something before we go on. You have these conversations, especially on social media. You say something, and people say things like, and they start insulting you. And then they say, like what they did to Tony Imako or Sheilo or Joke Silva, they just come for you and start doing that. Did not start today. They've been doing it since the 30s, no 40s actually. Since 1940 to 41. That was when this whole thing started. With Zeke and West African Pilot. They will use the media against you, just like they use Twitter and all that. And people, they were reporting. These guys went on Netflix and tried to pull down Tony Imako's movies. Tell me something called primitive. Anything more primitive than that is hell. But that's like it's our way or the highway. And if you don't conform, we'll blackmail you, we'll trash you, we'll destroy you. And when they also tell you something about Lagos, say, oh, you guys are always using media propaganda. They are not accusing you, they are confessing to you. First Republic, please, I hope is the audio good?
All right, thanks. I'm a bit more conscious because of what the gentleman said.
All right, thanks. I'm a bit more conscious because of what the gentleman said earlier. But thank you very much for that. Thank you, Agbaki, Ades, and Mr. Dongos. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone. That poet, Eshe. So the point is, when they say these things, and I've seen your wife just withdraw when they hear that thing. Like, you guys use the media and you're driving propaganda. It's not true. They are telling you what their fathers did in the 40s, 50s, 60s. It stopped during the war. But guess what? After the war, they continued. And they continued not with West African Pilot, but there were other papers. I don't want to mention their names because they are still existing. I don't want to spot people market. I will mention it when I'm not talking like this so that it doesn't look like I'm trying to spoil their business. But the point is that when they, even today, ask yourself how many newspapers are actually very big that are Yoruba and are driving narrative against the Ibos. Yoruba owned. The oldest newspaper in Nigeria is Tribune, 1949, I guess, right? Is it 49? Yeah, has to be 49. Tribune, that's the oldest surviving newspaper. That's Papa's paper, Awo. Then you had The Nation, Tinubu. Then you had Punch. We have Punch. How many big papers do you really have, apart from those three? I won't mention the other names, but I think I already answered the question without saying anything. So, since 49, what you should ask yourself is that before 49, what happened? And I've said it here before, for 10 years, Zeke used West African Pilot to dabaru everything in the place, to go according to his own design. From 1938 to 1948. He returned to Lagos in 37, joined NYM in 37, began his paper in 38. For those 10 years, he was pushing Igbo agenda. Nobody could say anything because nobody had the kind of media. The people responded was 1948, and they used the paper called The Service, Daily Service. That was when they began to use to respond. That was 48. A year later, Awolowo began his own newspaper, Tribune. So what they did in all those 10, 11 years is what they project to you today. Oh, this is what you are doing. It's not what you are doing. You are confessing. I've said it before. Every accusation is a confession. All right. So what SLA is saying here as a 64 is that if you go against their plan, they are going to belittle you, demean you on the pages of the newspapers, and they're going to use the media to attack you. And if you think it's a lie, go and ask Toya Imako, go and ask Sheilo, go and ask Joke Silva, even ask the old man who is quite ill, Olu Jacobs. They did not hold back their punches. Why? Because they didn't want the Agulu Messiah. It's amazing that history just keeps repeating itself. Is it the people that repeat history? Let's keep listening.
Àwọn ipò alákòókò sì ti bẹ̀rẹ̀ pẹ́. Wọ́n ti bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí palẹ̀mọ́ pẹ́ láti wá ọ̀nà èyí tí wọ́n fi jẹ gàba lórí gbogbo ẹ̀yà ti Nàìjíríà yòókù. Láti wá ọ̀nà tí wọ́n fi máa tẹ̀ wá mọ́lẹ̀ pàápàá jùlọ àwọn kóòtù òjíire ní ilẹ̀ ìwọ̀ oòrùn. Láti nǹkan bí 30 ọdún sẹ́yìn, wọ́n ti bẹ̀rẹ̀ nínú ìwé ìròyìn wọn láti máa.
This man, I think he know my spirit. So people are writing other names. Bimbo Akintola, yes. Wole Soyinka, Adeboye, anybody that goes against, you don't even have to go against Peter Obi. Just don't support him. You're a candidate for dragging. Just a bunch of clowns. Anyway, you see what? Did you hear what he said? He said, "Be ogbon saying." That's what SLA just said. He said they've been planning to dominate all parts of Nigeria, particularly Yoruba land, and they started doing it about 30 years ago. He's making this speech in 1964. And he said they started doing this about 30 years ago. It correlates with what I was saying that started in 38. And if you want to know more about that, please watch our videos on Aolo and Azikiwe. We went deep into those things. But if you want to have, I'm going to mention some books, you can check them out maybe later. But Awo, the autobiography of Obafemi Awolowo, and Second World War Nigerian Politics by G. Olusanya. And also The Educated Elite in Nigerian Society by E.I. Odele. What you discover is a plan, not just a plan, but they start working towards actually dominating everybody. And so when you don't allow people to dominate you, you're a tribalist. But if you allow them, you're a detribalized Nigerian. You see how it works?
Ṣáátá gbogbo àwọn tó jẹ́ aṣíwájú akẹ́dọ̀ láti máa ṣáátá gbogbo àwọn tó jẹ́ aṣíwájú ní gbogbo ilẹ̀ kóòtù òjìire. Wọ́n gbìyànjú púpọ̀ láti jẹ́ kí àwọn ọ̀dọ́mọkùnrin kóòtù òjìire kí wọ́n má nígbàgbọ́ nínú àwọn bàbá tó bí wọn mọ́. Àwọn ipò alákòókò yìí wọ́n wá ní òrètí pé nígbà tí àwọn bá fi bẹ́ẹ̀ dá èdè àìyedè sílẹ̀ láàrin àwọn kóòtù òjìire yóò fún àwọn ní àǹfààní láti bọ́ síwájú. Nígbà tí ètò ìbò dídì dé, wọ́n wá gbìyànjú gidigidi láti rí i pé gbogbo àlá tí àwọn tí ńlá látẹ̀yìnwá àwọn lo ìbò bíi àwúre tí ó mú kí àgbà rẹ̀ òtòrí ẹ̀ ó rántí pé ní nǹkan bíi 20 ọdún sẹ́yìn ni ọ̀kan nínú àwọn aṣíwájú nínú àwọn ipò alákùkọ ló lanu ló sọ fún wa pé òun ká àwọn ipò alákùkọ bíi àkàndá ọlọ́run olódùmarè tí ọlọ́run sọ̀kalẹ̀ sílé ayé láti wá jẹgàba lórí gbogbo àwa ẹ̀dá yòókù pàápàá jùlọ ní ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà. Ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ò pé ní nǹkan nígbà náà, ṣùgbọ́n láti ìgbà tí wọ́n ti sọ eléyìí ni wọ́n ti ń ṣiṣẹ́ tọ̀ ọ́. Díẹ̀díẹ̀ ni imú ẹlẹ́dẹ̀ẹ́ sì ń wọgbà láti ìgbà náà lọ.
All right. So he said that, and I know some people are not non-Yorubas, that's why I'm stopping. The first time we didn't stop at all, so please try and bear with me. So he said that they've been doing this for about 30 years, and he was talking in 1964, so he was referring to what happened in the 1930s. And that thing actually did not show until 1940, when Zig really did what he wanted to do, and I don't want to go into it today. And then, of course, what eventually killed NYM, when he started turning people against each other by saying people were against Ijebu, and then he put Ijebu and Igbo on one side against every other person, every other ethnic group, and they essentially began to weaken the party. And then he mentioned that about 20 years ago, one of their leaders, he was talking about Azikiwe, so one of the leaders said that God has specially created them. And it's true. This was in 1949. In fact, two of the leaders actually made that statement. In 1945, it was Charles Onyema who said that the domination of Nigeria by the Igbo was only a question of time. He made that statement at the Island Club in Lagos. It was an unguarded statement. And unfortunately, it was that statement that led to the riots in the north. The first one everybody's always talking about, that Ibos were killed in the north. Again, I can't justify it. Nobody, no sane person should justify the killings of any group of people. But I'm just saying that the reason that thing happened was because of Charles Onyema's speech in 1945. 4 years afterwards, Zik made a similar statement in June of 1949. Interestingly, he published that statement in July. I'll find you the exact dates because I want to say something, that's very important. Somebody shared the idea. Somebody talked about the idea that Zik had said this thing in 1949. What did he say in 49? That the God of Africa, the Yoruba people, because I'm reading what Mr. Tungus is saying. Mr. Tungus says, thanks for interpreting. I have forgotten the little Yoruba I learned in Lagos school in the early 60s. It's because of you, people like it I'm interpreting, sir. But thank you very much for being here. I really appreciate it, sir. All right. So this is what Zik said in 1949. I want to find the dates because I want to make a point. If I find it, I'll let you know. Zik said that the God of Africa has specially created the Igbo nation to lead the children of Africa from the bondage of the ages. In other words, it was assuming superiority, ethnic superiority, Igbo superiority, which is why Olo called him an ethnic jingoist. He was saying that God has specially created his own people to lead the rest of the continent. All right. He made that statement last Saturday of June. I think it was June 25. I can't see it right now, but I think I'm very sure that's what it was. He made that statement in Aba. But guess what he did? He published it in July in West African Pilot. That was in 1949. By 1961, they published a book, The Selected Speeches of Azikiwe. I have that book, and I think it's actually quite good. Like you see his thought pattern and things like that. And in that document, in that book, they had changed what Zik said in 1949, that God has specially created them to become victims of everything in Africa. And this is why I'm saying all this to Renchi. A Yoruba guy was arguing with another Yoruba guy that Zik did not say what he said in 1949 because he had read something from a blog online that said, God has made them to be victims. So I told him, the blog you are quoting is quoting this book, The Selected Speeches, Zik, The Selected Speeches, and it was published in 61. That was made 12 years earlier. So if you find that book, which I have, you will not see the original statement. But if you find books that were written in the 50s and 60s about what Zik said, you will find exactly what he wrote there. And if you find the July 6 or 7, 1949 newspaper clipping of West African Pilot, you see that speech there. The idea basically is that the rest of us were supposed to serve one people. Now, here's the crazy part for me as a person. If you had superior political skills, organizational skills, civilization, you have grown, you have built something fantastic, right? Like the Yorubas have done, or like the Hausas have done, or like they did in Kanem Borno Empire. You had built something and you wanted to bring the rest of us into it. Share, I understand. You have not built anything in your life. We are the one that God has made to supervise and lead the rest of us. And if we say no to it, we are bigots. Oyibo no try o. Mostly listen, sha.
Ibi tí àwọn ọmọ títí ó bu òjìire àti àwọn mìíràn ní òkè ọya tí a ò gbé fura ẹni tí ń jàpá ẹni tí ń po èbó oríṣiríṣi ń po èbó oríṣiríṣi ṣùgbọ́n àwọn tí wọ́n mọ ibi táwọn ń lọ tí wọ́n fẹ́ fi ara wọn sí ipò tí àwọn èèyàn yòókù tí wọn ò ní jẹ́ nǹkan mọ́ wọn ò já para.
We heard what they said, but we didn't really, people didn't.
He said for many years, like we heard what they said, but we didn't really, people didn't really take cognizance of it. It wasn't an issue for most people. They didn't really think it was a big deal, and they were just speaking English. I'm not speaking English and just acting like no big deal. But the plan is to actually subjugate both the South, both the Yoruba land. They've not really taken it seriously, but it's important that we begin to take it seriously. Again, what was this? Was the 1960s. No.
Wọ́n ń dùn ún ní gbogbo ọ̀nà láti ní pé wọ́n jẹ gàba. Mo fẹ́ di ẹ̀yin tí ẹ̀ ń gbọ́ ohùn mi. Mélòó nínú àwọn tó ti ilẹ̀ ìwọ̀ oòrùn tí wọ́n tún òjìire ló lọ fi ara ẹ̀ jẹ baálẹ̀, tó fi ara ẹ̀ jẹ àárín àgbò, tó fi ara ẹ̀ jẹ balógun ní ilẹ̀ Ìgbò alákùkọ. Mo béèrè lọ́wọ́ ẹ̀.
He said that the plan is to dominate everywhere using politics. So he said, let me ask you a question. How many Yoruba people have gone to the southeast, to Igbo land, to make themselves the leader? How many of them? And that's the question. It was a rhetorical question. There's none. And someone asked in the comment section, Prof, why did you say Oyinbo no trial? Because Oyinbo, they just a pack. Ọkàn pack àtẹyẹlé àti ẹmọ Yorùbá ní òjò tó rọ̀ lọ kọ ẹlẹ pọ̀ má díẹ̀. Wọ́n kàn dàgbò àpọ̀ ní. Wọ́n kàn dàgbò àpọ̀ àti máyà kí n sọ nǹkan tí ó dà. Wọ́n ṣáà dàgbò àpọ̀ because God bless you, dark poet. They just mixed everybody together. And the crazy part is, you see, let me say this. The Yoruba and the Hausa, we've had relationships we've had a relationship for centuries. Okay, it's not a perfect relationship. There is no perfect relationship anyway, but we've had a relationship for centuries. We will do things, they are pick things from us, we are pick things from them. And you know what, because we are both from advanced civilizations, we acknowledge what we got from each other, because it doesn't make you less. If I say the word sabotage right now, the English will not say it germinated in their land. They know it's French. Okay, if you say cash, they know it's Arabic and Persian. They don't mind acknowledging it. It's only people who just came out of the woods last month that wish out we made everything happen in this time. The truth of the matter is that with Yoruba and Hausa, even though it's not perfect, what am I even saying? There's no perfect relationship anywhere now. English and French is not perfect either. But everybody knows their boundaries. You know what? I think I should do a session on this indigenous thing. I want to read some things here about Yoruba relationship with the Hausa, even in the colonial era, before the 1900s. You'll be shocked when you discover that in 1921, when they were putting up the constabulary in the north, after the Hausa, the indigenous people will be the constabulary, this thing will become police with that. After them, the next group of people in terms of numbers were the Yoruba, was about 200. The Hausas themselves about 260 or 271 thereabout. I'll bring out the book when that time comes. The point is that this was in 1921. There are relationships documented from the 14th century, from the 15th century, I should say, 600 years. But everybody knows their boundaries. This is my land. You can come in. I mean, some of the first mosques built in some parts of Yoruba land were actually built because of the Hausas. The Hausas will sleep in the palace of the kings because the king was the patron of strangers. So they will sleep in his palace, and then they will go to the market. The market was always far from the palace anyway. And then when they noticed that they were praying and it was under the sun, they decided to start building, and you see it all over Ekiti, you see it in other parts of Yoruba land, start building small mosques for them very close to their stores. but they knew where the thing stopped. They were Hausa, not all this one that just started destroying people's lives all over the place. I'm talking about like the way it was back in the day. There were people from Maiduguri that moved into Lagos, and today, and I've met some of them, their great grandfathers were actually Kanuri. Today they're Yoruba. One of them, I won't mention the name, one of them, if you look for one song, Shemoti Daroko and Shakemeti Daroko, Olorin Konti Kwanwan Ko, King Washa in the Marshal, he kept on praise singing, was talking about the person, wonky. The man is not originally, I mean, he is Yoruba, but his great grandfather were Kanuris. No, Oshodi Takwa. Oshodi Takwa is Nope. This one are from Borno. One of the husbands of Madam Tinubu was from Borno. I'm not going to that history now. But the point I'm trying to say is that ancient civilizations know how to work with each other so that you know exactly what I mean. I also have been in Agege for how many years now? You don't have all this nonsense where we just shout, oh, we own this place, we develop this place. It just reeks primitive, like, consciousness. Anyway, so what SLA is saying here is that they've been trying to do this for a while. We've not taken it serious because we just go around speaking English and just America. But we have to stop speaking English and understand that these guys want to dominate both Yoruba land and the North. And this may sound very like he's exaggerating, but by the time we read some documents which we've read here before, you'll understand the fact that he was not exaggerating at all. And if you can get the document while he's speaking, if you visit Redomi Global on Telegram, Redomi is RADOMI Global on Telegram, go to the learning section, look for the white paper on political alignment in Western Nigeria. It was written not by Akintola, it was written by NCNC Yoruba Caucus. When they showed them Pepe by 1964, they published that paper. Please read that book, maybe afterwards, so you can understand how serious the issue was. Let's go on listening.
Àwọn àjòjì gbogbogbò tí pé kí ọmọ onílẹ̀ ó mọ̀yìn ó lè kà wọ́n láàrin wa. Ìwọ̀n ò fún Ìbàdàn, ìwọ̀n ò jẹ́ kí ọmọ onílùú mú mí, ìwọ̀n ò fún Kánò, ìwọ̀n ò fún Abẹ́òkúta bẹ́ẹ̀, ìwọ̀n pọ̀ káàkiri tó ebi Àkúrẹ́, ìwọ̀n ń lọ díẹ̀díẹ̀ láti rí pé wọ́n kárí ẹni gbogbo ilẹ̀ wa, wọ́n fún okùn mọ́ wa lọ́rùn nípa ètò tí ìjọba nípa ọ̀nà tí òwò, ibo ni ojú wọn ò ká, ibo ni wọn ò dé, ibo ni wọn rán okùn yí wa kádé. Yóò bá sí ètò tí ìbò nípa àwọn òní káwa tó bẹ́ẹ̀ nígbà.
That these folks are all over Ibadan, then Abeokuta, they're all over Lagos, then Kano, then Akure, then all the cities, right? And they have this network, and without elections, they will not be able to take over our space. But with elections, they'll be able to do so. And let me quickly say it. Just as you're thinking about what he's saying, so as you're listening to what he's saying, think about what's happening. So you have this network across the place. You tell your people, why are you? One clown reached out to me on Facebook the other day. I think it was 2 days ago. Was saying to me, this is one of the boys. I mean, I knew him from school. Good guy. He's Igbo. Then he said, oh, I respect you so much. And I hate it when people say things like that, because the next thing that is coming is nonsense. I respect you so much, and I can't believe that you are supporting, you are praising. I was like, you tell me you are respecting me, and you are literally insulting me. This was one of the boys in school. The point is, but of course, everybody is a big boy now. The point is that because they are amongst you, there are two things they have to do. Number one, to make you see that whoever is your choice is the wrong one, because it's not their own choice.
Anything that looks good to you.
So your elders will be talked down on. Anything that looks good to you will be trivialized, and then they will now introduce subtly. They will introduce what is their own desire without shouting. Just tell you like, oh, but this is the one you follow if you're really detribalized. But because that network is all over the place, you can change the votes in different places once you have the critical mass. And if the governor of Anambra State is telling that 50% of his people live outside the state, you know what that means, right? And you saw what happened in Lagos last election. By the way, election is coming next year. Tinubu cannot lose Lagos. And I'm supporting Tinubu with my full chest. If you have a problem with that, there's a transformer very close to Jesus. I listen. They want to dominate in the north. They want to dominate in Yoruba land. They want to dominate in Benin. They even want to dominate in the eastern region. Why do they want to dominate? This is why, my brothers and sisters. What they're really after is to become the leader in all things across Nigeria. The top posts that you have in the federal government, who do you find there?
Washington.
They have taken over every space. If you go to the railway, National Railway Corporation, you find them. They're the ones who are leading. If you go to the Nigerian Ports Authority, they are the ones leading. If you go to the Nigerian Airways, they're the ones leading. Let me just read something to you from the document I was referencing earlier. Again, the paper is called White Paper, the New Political Alignment in Western Nigeria. It was published in 1964. I'm just going to read a summary of some parts of this thing. If you go to the Nigerian Railway Corporation, 57 direct senior appointments were made by the Nigerian Railway Corporation. During the tenure of office of the present chairman, Dr. Ekejani, 27 of the 57 were tribes, 22 were expatriates. Okay? Of the 57, 27 were Ibos, 22 were expatriates, only 8 came from other tribes or other ethnic groups. The total names of the current staff list in the Railway Corporation was actually 431. Of the 431, the 270 of them are Ibos, and 161 belong to other tribes. That's more than 60%. Okay, that's for Nigerian Railways. If you go to Nigerian Ports Authority, out of a total of 104 top posts in Nigerian Port Authority, 73 of the 104 are Ibos, 23 Yorubas, and the remaining 8 belong to other groups. Ibos, 22% Yorubas, and 7% others. Nigerian Port Authority. If you go to Yaba Technical Institute, there are 29 indigenous senior members of the staff. 21 are Ibos, 8 are Yoruba. Yaba Tech. And of course, the Minister of Education is Igbo. And that Minister of Education also made sure that there was an Igbo VC in Unilag. And of course, we had an Igbo VC in UI. And we had to lead, by the way, Baba is going, I said he's going to talk about that later. Let me not, go. Let's just stay with the things they have spoken about for now. So you mentioned Nigerian Ports Authority, you mentioned Nigerian Airways, and you mentioned the railway. And what you find in all these places is the fact that they actually fill the place. They filled every spot, including caterers. They filled every space with folks from their side. But if you speak against it, you are a bigot, you are a tribalist, and you don't like Nigeria. Is God not wonderful? Let me read some things in the comment section before we go on. So someone says that I should say, what's the meaning of Egbe Alakuko? So Egbe Alakuko, Akuko was their logo. That's the cockerel or cock. Akuko was the logo of NCNC. Ibos had come to dominate the party and ethnicize the party. So when he says Igbo Alakuko, he's saying that the Ibos of the NCNC. I hope you get it. Thank you. And then some people say here, look, sorry. Akado says, Akado, you're on TikTok. Welcome. He says the agenda has never changed. It is the Yoruba that have gone culturally and politically sloppy. All of this, why did they still accept them back after the war? The war. That was why they accepted them. The war. Pity, sympathy. Folks in Rivers State did not care about any sympathy. They didn't even allow them in the first place. After a while, they allowed them, but they gave everybody boundaries. The rep were just thinking like, hey, yeah, this is what happened. Sorry. You get. Foladune says they came and messed up the regional system of government. Oh yes, they did. Akadol says extreme nepotism is a function of the lack of evolution. Really, that's heavy. Foladune says they destroyed everything our leaders put in order for us. Ade says when they dominate, they call it competence. Yes, if you're dominating, it's competence. If you don't get the chance, it's because you guys are bigots. Okay. Possibly only Kimi. Anyway, let's continue. So he has mentioned 3 places and says that they are dominating these places, and that's the reason they want political power, so that they can. By the way, political power is not it SLA. Let's keep listening to Chief Akintola.
Wọ́n tó ń gbọ́ ọ̀rọ̀ mi láti Èkó wá, àbí ẹ̀yin tẹ́ wà ní ìlú bí Ìbàdàn, àbí ẹ̀yin tẹ́ wà ní ìlú bí Kaduna, ẹ̀yin tẹ́ ti wà káàkiri. Bẹ̀rẹ̀ bá tí èsì ti ń ṣẹlẹ̀ lónìí, ẹ ó mọ̀ pé gbogbo àwọn akúròtù òdúró, gbogbo àwọn tí wọ́n wà ní òkè ọya, gbogbo àwọn tá a wà ní Nàìjíríà, a gbọ́dọ̀ tẹ okùn ṣòkòtò wa tọ̀ kó dáa. Ó dàbí ẹni pé pàkúté àwọn ọ̀kánjúà yìí, pàkúté àwọn wọ̀bìà bílíkì, ó dàbí ẹni pé ó fẹ́ mú wa. Àǹfààní wà fún wa nínú ọ̀sẹ̀ tí a ó bọ́ sí láti bọ́ kúrò nínú pàkúté náà. Ẹ̀yin kí ẹ gbọ́ ohùn olótùú ìjọba ti ìlà oòrùn, olórí alákùnkọ Dr. Michael Opara ní ìjọ tó sọ̀rọ̀ láìpẹ́ yìí, ó kà lọ bẹ́ẹ̀rẹ́bẹ́ irú nǹkan ríbíríbí tí ìjọba ẹgbẹ́ alákùnkọ ti ṣe ní ilẹ̀ Ìgbò, irú oríṣiríṣi iṣẹ́ tó ní àwọn dálẹ̀ ńbẹ̀, ó kà lọ pọ̀. Bí ẹ bá lọ wo ilé tí wọ́n gbé ń ṣe símẹ́ǹtì ní Kaladu, owó ìjọba gbogbogbò ni wọ́n fi ṣe. Bẹ́ẹ̀ bá lọ wo èédú ní tó wà ní Enugu tí ìjọba ní Kaladu, owó ìjọba gbogbogbò ni wọ́n fi ṣe. Bẹ́ẹ̀ bá.
All right, so he's saying that you may have listened. Oh dear. So he's saying that you have heard the Premier of the Eastern Region, Dr. Michael Okpara, say things that they have accomplished in the Eastern Region. Then he mentioned some of those projects and said those projects were actually built with federal money. And the reason they were able to access the money was because they were at the center and they used politics, and they're about to use elections again, because using elections give you the power in politics. And the reason they were able to access those monies was because, they use elections and all of that. And then he said that, when it comes to the coal and things like that, this is actually federal money powering those things. But then the Eastern region claimed those things as his achievements.
Ọwọ́ èédú yìí tó wà ní Enugu tí ìjọba gbogbogbò kù nípa rírí àǹfààní yìí láti ọ̀dọ̀ ìjọba gbogbogbò nítorí pé àwọn wà nínú ìjọba náà. Ọ̀pẹ́ àìmọye ọmọ Ìgbò ló ń ríṣẹ́ ṣe lójoojúmọ́ tí kì í ṣe iṣẹ́ tí wọ́n fi owó ti ìjọba ìlà oòrùn dálẹ̀, owó tí wọ́n fi ti ìjọba gbogbo wa wọ́n fi dálẹ̀ ní àǹfààní.
He's saying that a lot of Igbo people are working in several establishments, and that those establishments were not, built or, put up using money from the Eastern region, but was money from the federal government, and it's supposed to be our money. But let me quickly give you this context. SLA had an approach to government where he felt that Yoruba people should get to the center and share from the largesse of the federal government. And I think that's one of the things that, where himself and Papa actually disagreed. He felt, listen, these guys, the Ibos have gotten there and they're all, taking everything. Yeah, you're having all this ambassadors, DGs, everybody is Igbo. Why not get in there so Yoruba people can also take advantage of it? And I will feel like, no, that's not the way to do it. The way to do it is to actually change the structure. But again, Akintola was being realistic, and what he said made sense. So I said that to say that when you hear him say things like, oh, they have all these jobs, they have all these things, he's saying that because he's saying if the money is federal, if the money from the federal purse, why should the opportunities, right, go to only one group? Not just one region or one ethnic group in particular. Why? When the money is literally from all of us. Let's keep listening.
Àní tí àwọn ipò aláṣọrí nínú ìjọba gbogbogbò kò sí ẹ̀yàkẹyà kan ní ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà tó ní irú àǹfààní bẹ́ẹ̀. Àwọn ọ̀rẹ́ wa ní òkè ọya, àwọn tí wọ́n wà nínú NPC, wọ́n lè pọ̀ ní iye nínú ìgbìmọ̀ àpapọ̀ lẹ́kọ̀ọ́. Ṣùgbọ́n kì í ṣe tí wọ́n ti pọ̀ ní iye tó bẹ́ẹ̀ ni àǹfààní tí wọ́n rí nínú ìjọba gbogbogbò pọ̀ tó. Àwọn tó.
There are so many in the parliament.
He said our friends, New Kioya, our friends across the Niger, he's talking about the Northerners, that there are so many in the parliament, and there are many. He said, but the numbers, just because there are many, doesn't mean that they're actually taking advantage of the opportunities like the Ibos. And we know why. We've talked about it several times. I'm just trying to interpret now. Let's go on.
Fún àǹfààní náà tó jù lọ, àwọn náà ní ipò alákọ̀ọ́. Ìwọ tó ń gbọ́ ohùn mi, tí ìrẹ́lùwé ló bá gbé ń ṣiṣẹ́ ni, tí airways ló ti ń ṣiṣẹ́ ni, tí port authority ló ti ń ṣiṣẹ́ ni, tí electricity corporation ló ti ń ṣiṣẹ́ ni, bí àárọ̀ inú ẹ, bí ọ̀dọ̀ fi inú ẹ, ọlọ́mọ sọ ọmọ aláfẹ́ ẹ̀lẹ́kẹ̀ bí aláfẹ́ ọ̀la. Kì í ṣe nínú ọ̀nà àti ẹnìkan ni wọ́n gbé bẹ́ẹ̀ tì wá sẹ́yìn. Nínú ilé ẹ̀kọ́ gíga gbogbo, oríṣiríṣi ìjọba àgbègbè ló ní tiẹ̀, ìjọba tí òkè ọya ní tiẹ̀, tí ìlà oòrùn ní tiẹ̀, tí ìwọ̀ oòrùn ní tiẹ̀ lọ́dọ̀. Ìpa ní méjì àpapọ̀, a ní ilé ẹ̀kọ́.
What system do they run? Unitary system. I'll respond to that much later. If you can remind me how respond to it. They ran a unitary system. Now let me just say it so that we don't have to go back to it. When people say that he abolished regional system, they don't mean that he created more states. They are saying that he removed the autonomy of the regions. You see, before in 1C, the regions had their own constitutions apart from the federal constitution. Right? Western region had its own constitution, separate from the federal constitution. Of course, it's not above it, but within the borders of the Western region, there is a way we run things. When Iransi came, with Decree 1, he suspended everything like that and unified the authority at the center. That's what it means to have. And so, excuse me, governor, 20 regions. The governors are representing him and the military establishment, not the people. That's what it means to abolish regional system. So the system we also used was unitary system, where everything follows the chain of command. There's nothing like autonomy in your regions. Everybody has to do what the guy is saying, But we're going to explain that much later. But what I is saying is that the institutions that we have all over the place, even the ones that belong to Yoruba people, have been taken over by Ibos. Then you mentioned that we have two universities that were federal, one in Ibadan and one in Lagos, and both of them had Igbo BCs. And just to be very clear to those at the back, it was not due to merit. It was nepotism at its worst. Igbos did not get those things by merit. Whether it was in UI or was in Unilag, it was politics and it was nepotism.
Gíga ńlá kan ní Ìbàdàn. Àní ilé ẹ̀kọ́ gíga ńlá kan tó jẹ́ àpapọ̀ ní Èkó. Méjì, àwọn baálẹ̀ ẹbẹ̀ wọn balógun bẹ̀. Ara àwọn ọmọ Ìgbò alákùkọ yìí náà ni wọ́n. Ọjọ́ tí ajá sì ti ń ṣe lé oko ìmọ̀ràn wà. Bí ọmọ ọlọ́run ti ẹ̀ ló gbò.
Ha! Did you hear that? Ah, yeah, you. Did you guys? Did you catch it? Jesus is Lord. That was caustic. Mi fẹ́ sọ fẹ́ kẹ́ gbọ́ kí ọba fẹ́ nára wọn sọ Olúwa àwọn bàbá yìí ní ẹnu Jésù Kristi ẹ gbọ́.
Owó tí wọ́n fi ti ìjọba gbogbo wa tí wọ́n fi dálẹ̀ ní àǹfààní tí àwọn ipò alákùkọ rí nínú ìjọba gbogbogbò kò sí ẹ̀yàkẹyà kan ní ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà tó ní irú àǹfààní bẹ́ẹ̀. Àwọn ọ̀rẹ́ wa ní òkè ọya àwọn tí wọ́n wà nínú NPC wọ́n lè pọ̀ ní iye nínú ìgbìmọ̀ àpapọ̀ lẹ́kọ̀ọ́ ṣùgbọ́n kì í ṣe bí wọ́n ti pọ̀ ní iye tó bẹ́ẹ̀ ni àǹfààní tí wọ́n rí nínú ìjọba gbogbogbò pọ̀ tó àwọn tó kó àǹfààní náà tó jù lọ àwọn náà ní ipò alákọ̀ọ́ ìwọ tó ń gbọ́ ohùn mi tí ìrẹ́lùwẹ̀ ló bá gbé ń ṣiṣẹ́ ni tí airways ló ti ń ṣiṣẹ́ ni tí port authority ló ti ń ṣiṣẹ́ ni tí electricity corporation ló ti ń ṣiṣẹ́ ni bí àrò inú ẹ bí ọ̀dọ̀ fi inú ẹ ọlọ́mọ sọ ọmọ aláṣẹ ẹlẹ́kẹ̀ bí aláṣẹ ọ̀húnlá yìí ṣe nínú ọ̀nà àti ẹnìkan ni wọ́n gbé bẹ́ẹ̀ tì wá sẹ́yìn nínú ilé ẹ̀kọ́ gíga gbogbo oríṣiríṣi ìjọba agbègbè ló ní tiẹ̀ ìjọba tí òkè ọya ní tiẹ̀ tí ìlà oòrùn ní tiẹ̀ tí ìwọ̀ oòrùn ní tiẹ̀.
So he's saying as far as universities go, every region has its own. The Eastern region has its own university, the Western region has its own, and the Northern region had its own. And that everybody, they manage their own. But the federal government has two, and those two were cornered by Ibos.
Ńlá kan ní Ìbàdàn. Àní ilé ẹ̀kọ́ gíga ńlá kan tó jẹ́ àpapọ̀ ní Èkó ó jẹ́ méjì. Méjèèjì àwọn baálẹ̀ ẹbẹ̀ wọn balógun bẹ̀. Ara àwọn ọmọ Ìgbò alákùkọ yìí náà ni wọ́n. Ọjọ́ tí ajá sì ti ń ṣeré oko mọ̀lọ́bọ́ wà.
Ayérayé o, ìjìnlẹ̀ nínú ìjìnlẹ̀. Wọ́n sọ pé ọjọ́ tí ajá ti ń ṣeré inú igbó lọ́bọ̀ wà. How do you say that in English? I'm just going to tell you. what he's saying is that these guys have chosen to dominate federal institutions even when they're not in their regions. However, when you think about it, we got into the spaces before them. It's like saying that when we started going to universities and started schooling, these guys were still in the bushes. I mean, I hope that's not as harsh as what he said, but you get the point.
How can we have
two federal institutions and we can't even have one of those two?
He's saying that how can we have two federal institutions and we can't even have one of those schools being led by a Yoruba person? Meanwhile, Yoruba people have been studying longer than any other group in Nigeria. And then he said, if you're from Abeokuta, do you know how many years your fathers have been going to schools? Or, you know, if you're from Ijebu, do you know how many years they've been, you know, earning degrees? So how on earth is it that you're having people who are essentially just upstarts, who now are occupying spaces in your territory, and not even your territory, at the federal level, even though of course that is in your space, but they're in Ibadan, then you know, like I read earlier, they're also in Yabatek. Meanwhile, you are the one who is actually qualified for it. So when you hear the word competence, it's a lie. Oh, it's merit, it's a lie. There's no competence here, there's no merit here. All you see here is nepotism. It's nepotism. And your Bible needs to know, this does not mean you hate people. It just means that you are able to protect what's yours. And it's only a fool that opens his doors wide for thieves and say, I'm just proving that I'm human. No, you are proving that you're a fool. And I hope that nobody here is a fool. And if you're a fool, God will change you in Jesus' name. Amen. Let's go on.
Àwọn tí wọ́n ṣẹ̀ṣẹ̀ dé tí wọ́n ṣẹ̀ṣẹ̀ wọnú ẹ̀ wọ́n ń lo ètò wọn èyí tí wọ́n ní nínú ìjọba gbogbogbò ọmọ wọn nìkan ni wọ́n ń fi síbẹ̀ ni mo ti sọ fún yín pé nínú ipò ti ìjọba àwọn ni wọ́n fẹ́ kó gbogbo ẹ̀ tán nínú ipò ti ẹ̀kọ́ ipò aṣáájú wọ́n fẹ́ kó gbogbo ẹ̀ tán ìgbọ́dọ̀ láyé kan ló wà ń bẹ̀ tó yẹ kó yé yìí níṣe àwọn tó wà nínú ipò yìí nìkan ló ṣe pàtàkì ṣùgbọ́n gbẹ báyìí ọ̀gá kan wọn níbì kan láìpẹ́ ní igbákejì igbákẹta igbákẹrin tí ebi igbákẹẹ̀ẹ́dógún tí gbogbo ọgbẹ́ ìtẹ́lẹ̀ yóò jẹ́ kí ìdí wọn ló wà bẹ́ẹ̀.
He said the problem is not really that you have
The leaders of these organizations being Igbo. He said the real issue is that after a while, the second in command, the third in command, up to the 15th in command, until there's no command or positions, everybody will be from the same ethnicity. Guys, I was laughing because of the way he said it. He's a fantastic communicator. I was laughing because of the way he said it, but what he said is actually true. They've taken over every space. That's exactly what the Sadauna was saying in his interview. Guess what? That interview was the same year, 1964. Love everything, right? Like that. Okay? You Bible people especially, you're always trying to prove that you're educated. Education that doesn't have self-preservation is a waste. Okay.
Èyí ni nǹkan tó yẹ kó jẹ́ ìrònú fún ọ. Àní wọ́n ń gba èèyàn ní ìlú Ìbàdàn. Èèyàn méjìdínlọ́gọ́fà ni wọ́n gbà ní ilé ẹ̀kọ́ gíga ti Ìbàdàn láìpẹ́. Nínú èèyàn méjìléláàádọ́fà náà 112 mọ́kàndínláàádọ́fà ni kì í ṣí ni wọ́n ti ilẹ̀ ìlà oòrùn wá. Èèyàn mẹ́ta péré nínú ẹ̀ ló jẹ́ Yorùbá ní ilẹ̀.
Wait, nínú 112 wọ́n mú mọ́kàndínláàádọ́fà. Sorry, méjìdínláàádọ́fà. Àádọ́fà is 110. Ọgọ́fà is 120. Méjìdínláàádọ́fà will be 99. Meta, that's 3. 3 Yoruba and 99 Easterners. Jesus. You know how you get an opportunity, you scuttle it by just being greedy. How can you do this in another person's land? No, only 112. Adofa. How can it be 149? No, Adofa. Adofa means 110. Ado is minus 10. Ogofa is 120. Adofa. Meji Dila Adofa, that's 99. Uncle 99, that's your domo. One meta. The audacity, man. If there's some people should not get in some places anymore, those who are saying it, by the way, guys, this same thing happened, I think it was last year, House of Reps. They had a sitting. They're talking about the federal institution in Anambra State. Had about 900 people thereabout recruited into that organization, into that institution. Of the less than 900 people, 65 were from Enugu, 1 from Bayelsa, 1 from Kaduna, 1 from all those places, 811 from Anambra State. You see, I went to school in Ife. Ife is a federal institution. I'm from Ife. My town is Ife. If you enter that school, you will see all kinds of people there. Even anybody who went to Ife here, the NASU, especially if you go to Senate building, Ekiti, how can you have 811 of less than 1,000 people from one state in a federal institution? Did you not advertise? This is not 1965. This is last year. Last year. So it's not just history in the past. So stop talking about it. It's happening now. But talking about it is what makes you a bigot. Not doing it. It's crazy.
Yorùbá sì ní ọ̀gbìgbà náà wà ìwọ ọmọ ìyá mi ìwé iléèbó tó ń pọ̀ tó pọ̀ tó dáa ọlọ́run ní bí ọkọ̀ lákọ̀ọ́yọ̀ ìyọwọ́ o.
Is it my sibling? Ọmọ ìyá mi, my brother, my sister. You are speaking English. Kò dùn. Yorùbá dùn lédè. Olotin fo ebo o fo to da Ọlọ́run jẹ́ kó fo kó yọwọ́. In other words, you are speaking English and speaking English and speaking English. Hopefully you're going to make money with this English you're speaking, with this Turanchi, because they are taking over stuff in your space, but you're busy speaking English and mentioning America and China went to China. Are you still on this Adofa?
No, I think he made a mistake.
Adofa is 110. No, I think he made a mistake. I think he made a mistake. Shuku. Adofa is 110. Meji Dila Adofa is 108. But the point is that he said 112. Oh, I get what you are saying. No, I get what you are saying. I get what you are saying. Meji Dila Adofa is 108. Oh, I get what you are saying now. But you were saying 185 now. I've been 148. You were confusing me. But you are right now. You are correct. Shuku bam bam. There's no link to any audio. If you listen to the first part of this video, you will see you have it. I'm very careful with stuff, please. And I'll explain later. And if I have to, I will let you know. Because this one is actually, I downloaded it, so it's not like I'm playing. It's not a link. I downloaded it a long time ago, so I'm playing it from my device. And I don't like to do those things like sharing. I don't. Before you know it, people will be asking for. But you get the point. So Shuku, yes, you are correct. It's 108. Thank you for your mathematics. For some reason, I think I'm thinking many things at the same time. But let's continue.
Àmọ́ ìbẹ̀rù ń lọ, ìbẹ̀rù ń lọ, oníwọ̀n ó dìde kó dáa. Mo fẹ́ tún panú ẹ̀ o. Oníwèé dé, ìwé dìran, èèbó bọ̀. O ò ní lọ ronú ẹ̀.
Wetin ẹ̀ẹ́dẹ̀gbọ́n Yorùbá ṣẹ́pọ̀ kọ̀ọ̀dán sọ oníwèé dé èèbó dìran èèbó gọ̀. Do you know what he's doing? Play of words. Yemo, I will reach out. Please, we'll talk about that later. Bokosi link, I'll let you know what's up. What was I saying? Jeez. Yes. Oniwede is from Orokobi Onigmide. Ebodiran, Bioladiran, Ebogo. So it's basically, you know what I'll do? I'll see if I can find. I'll be distracted. Okay, let's do it this way.
I'll see if I can
Olu.
I'll see if I can find
I'll see if I can find you the link, Yemo. Because I downloaded this a long time ago. I'll see if I can find you the link on YouTube. If I find it, and I know I'm going to find it, I'll put it on Telegram. How about that? Okay. But at least you can listen to it here right now. So I can concentrate. I'll see if I can. But you can also find it on YouTube, by the way, just look for his speech. What was I saying? Yes, wordplay. So, Oniwede, Ebodiran, Ebogo. In other words, all you are doing around you. So you are Ebogo. Ebo is Oyinbo. Greater me. Telegram link is Redomi Global. Redomi Global. Was a global says Professor Asha, Professor Awodi, Professor Asha. This man is something else. Anyway, Eka Tungbo Kotonson ni Ekonsi. Ilẹ̀ ṣú ẹja mọ̀ bá bọ̀.
Èèyàn mẹ́ta péré nú ẹ̀ ló jẹ́ Yorùbá. Ní ilẹ̀ Yorùbá sì nílẹ̀ ẹ̀kọ́ gíga náà wà. Ìwọ ọmọ ìyá mi, ìwé eléèbó, tó ń pọ̀ tó pọ̀ tó dáa. Ọlọ́run ní bí ọkọ̀ lákọ̀ọ́yọ̀ ń lọ owó o. Àmọ́ ìbẹ̀rù ń lọ, ìgbòdo ń lọ, oníwọ̀n ó dìde eku kó dáa. Kí ló fẹ́ tún panú ẹ̀ o? Oníwèdé, ìwé dìran, èèbó bọ̀. O ò ní lọ ronú ẹ̀ wò bó bá kàwé tán tó gboyè ìwé kó o bẹ Ọlọ́run tó fún ẹ lóye. Nígbà táwọn Ìgbò yìí dẹ pàkúté fún ọ, gbogbo téèyàn lò wọ́n tún ṣe nǹkan tó dáa. Òun ni wọ́n ń lò láti fi ṣe pàkúté sí èmú ẹ̀yà wa. Wọ́n dá ẹgbẹ́ lẹ̀, wọ́n ń pè ní NTNC. NTNC tí wọ́n dá lẹ̀ yìí, wọ́n wá mú nǹkan wé epo lórí. Wọ́n sọ di bí ìjẹ̀ èyí tá à ń fi sí orí ògìgì tàbí ìwọ̀ tá à ń fi ń pẹja. Wọ́n máa fi NTNC lóríṣiríṣi tí ó wù ẹni tí ìbá wádìí ọ̀rọ̀ lórí. One Nigeria, one country, one destiny, one Nigeria. Èkejì á ní jókòó ń bẹ̀, ó ń yọ ní ó ń yọ̀ sí. Ìwọ́ kàwé ẹ̀jẹ̀ títí ó wá ṣe orí. Wọ́n ní one Nigeria, Nàìjíríà wọn ò di méjì. Nàìjíríà ẹni.
Please power tap on TikTok. I had to stop. Please power tap. This is training activity. I'll just play that part again. It's also a play on words when he was talking about Ikejiani. Ikejiani was the head of Nigerian Railway Corporation. And he said they're shouting one Nigeria, but they are doing something else. Doesn't that show you that there are two Nigerians? Sorry, there are two Nigerias. In other words, the one Nigeria they're telling you, Ikejiani, in other words, there's an alternate or Nigeria somewhere that you're not privy to. All right, let's just take a listen to it. Jeez, this one is good. It's good.
One Nigeria, one country, one destiny, one Nigeria. Èkejì jókòó ń bẹ̀, ó ń yọ ló ń yọ̀ sí. Ìwọ́ kàwé tiẹ̀ títí ó wá ṣe orí. Wọ́n ní one Nigeria, Nàìjíríà wọn ò di méjì.
In other words, Ikejiani is sitting down.
Ikejiani Joko Onyokun Onyodi. In other words, Ikejiani is sitting down as the chairman of the Railway Corporation. Is getting fatter, right? His stomach is bulging. Is enjoying all of those things. Meanwhile, they're shouting one Nigeria, one Nigeria. Does not show you that there's a second Nigeria. Now, if you don't understand Yoruba, you may not get this. Ikeji in Yoruba means the second or two. Okay, so Ikejiani. The name of the man is Ikejiani. Okay, so he's saying Ikejiani Yokun Yodi, one power, one Nigeria. In other words, there's another Nigeria that you're not privy to, and you're just shouting English. Meanwhile, you're just shouting one Nigeria, but the other person is actually enjoying the Nigeria that you are shouting at. You're talking about one Nigeria. So apparently it's not one. There's another Nigeria that you don't know about. I hope I'm trying, because the Yoruba thing is sweet. I think the English is not even doing justice, but I'm sure you get the point.
ẹni orí jẹ tó rí ni àti Nàìjíríà tí wọ́n mọ ti gbogbo ọjọ́ bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ́hùn ó lọ́rọ̀ wò ohun tó sì fún àwọn Ìgbò láǹfààní ni pé wọ́n dàpọ̀ mọ́ àwọn Haúsá wọ́n dàpọ̀ mọ́ NPC àwa wá ní ìyà tó jẹ́ ọmọ wa yìí tó ó ka lọ́ọ̀yà lọ kárin lọ́dọ̀ wa Ọlọ́run jẹ́ kí gbogbo wa kárí ṣe ogun lọ́dọ̀ lọ́ọ̀yà tó jó gboyè tó ń gbàwé tán ọmọwé lóòótọ́ ṣùgbọ́n tó o gbọ́ ìbò tó o lè fi táyà nílò ìbò bọ́ ọ̀bá ríṣẹ́ ṣe kò parí lọ́ọ̀yà.
He said a lot of our own people have studied law. They speak English very well. They know everything. But what if you don't have anything to do? If you don't have a job, doesn't that mean that it was all a waste? And he's saying the reason the Ibos are able to do this is because they have gotten into alliance or coalition with the NPC, with the Northerners, and that's why they're able to take advantage of all of these things. By the way, let me say it this way. Going into alliance with the North doesn't mean you should be using nepotism to feed the entire place with your people. It just means that you have the opportunity and you didn't use the opportunity to better the lot of everybody. You didn't use the opportunity to better the lot of the Easterners. You used the opportunity to better the lot of Ibos. This thing is deep, man. You're not even thinking about the folks in the region, it's your ethnicity. But you're able to do that, to be fair, because you have proximity to power, or you're in alliance with the majority, the leading party. Let's go on.
Lọ́yà ni àní àwọn tó jókòó ọ̀bá lọ́yà bọ́ lọ́yà ń lọ Yorùbá sí ìgbẹ́ mọ́ kò jọba jẹ́ ká pàpọ̀.
Ah, God. Bó lọ́yà bó bí ọ̀yà ọba sí ìgbẹ́ mọ́. Do you? By the way, even you that are Yoruba speaker, I hope you understand what he's saying. So lawyer, of course, lawyer is lawyer, but lawyer in Yoruba, tí o bá ní ọ̀yà is bushmeat. O lawyer, tí o bá sọ́yà ń gbẹ́ mọ́, ìgbẹ́ in this context is the bush. Like there's no bushmeat, there's no grass cutter in the bush anymore. So what are you going to get out of it? In other words, you are shouting your lawyer. Yeah, I can't even say this in English language. I can't. He's saying that you're telling everybody that you're a lawyer, but by the time there's no job for you, what's the essence of being a lawyer? This man, to be honest, I would actually said it was, when it comes to propaganda for and speech making for AG and Yoruba people, Akintola was at the peak, man. He knew how to use words. He was an orator. And I'm sure you can tell, even from listening to this. Someone says, Baba gets wordplay and punchline. Opoju. And I can interpret it, but we're not going to actually feel it like you would.
Ẹgbẹ́ ti NPC ní òkè ọya tó wà nínú èyí tí ẹgbẹ́ ti dẹmọ ilẹ̀ Yorùbá tó wà nínú èyí tí.
So he's saying all of this to justify the coalition that he got into. So they had created NNA. Excuse me. Saying all of this to actually push the agenda that Please, is the audio good? Hello? Okay, I think it's better now. So I was trying to explain. I see the problem. So I was trying to Hello? Okay, I think it's better now. So I was trying to explain. I see the problem. So I was trying to explain. He was trying to pass the message across, and the whole idea, to be honest, is actually about the fact that he's now in alliance with NPC. So he's talking about NNA, Nigerian National Alliance, and that party has NNPC. Sorry, I said NPC. That NPC, that's one of People's Congress. And then he said Egbe Demo. That's the reason I paused, so the rest of us will understand what he meant by Egbe Demo. So after Akintola left Action Group, the folks who went with him, they created a new party. They called it NNDP, Nigerian National Democratic Party, using the name of Herbert Macaulay's party that was founded in 1923. So they resurrected that name, Nigerian National Democratic Party, but they used to call it Demo. So when you hear Egbe Demo Wambe, he's talking about his own party. Action Group was now working with NCNC, and Egbe Demo, NNDP, is now working with NPC in order to create NNA. Okay, let's go on. I hope you get the context. So he's saying now that we want to go into alliance with this one so that we also will be able to have access to the largest. All right, let's go on.
Delta Congress tó wà nínú èyí tí ẹgbẹ́ ti ilẹ̀ ti ìlà oòrùn náà, ẹgbẹ́ ti Dynamic Party tó wà nínú ẹ̀, a fẹ́ fi ọwọ́ sowọ́pọ̀ nítorí a ò fẹ́rẹ̀ jẹ fún ẹnikẹ́ni. A fẹ́ kó jẹ́ nínú ohun rere gbogbo tó wà ní Nàìjíríà. Ìwọ nípìn tiẹ̀, èmi nípìn tèmi, òun nípìn tiẹ̀, kẹ́yìn nìkan má jẹ́ kí ilẹ̀ ó fẹ̀. Ohun tí a fẹ́ dìde lé lórí inú ọ̀sẹ̀ tó ń bọ̀. Ìwọ abiyamọ tó ò fẹ́ kó jẹ́ kìkì ọmọ Ìgbò aláfikọ́ ní ọmọ ríṣẹ́ ṣe ọmọ tiẹ̀ ò ní rí. Bó bá lọ dìbò ní ọ̀sẹ̀ tó ń bọ̀, lọ dìbò rẹ fún NNA. Bó bá jẹ́ ilẹ̀ fóòtù òdílé lọ wà ní Western Region, ọwọ́ ẹ̀ ló fi tún ìwà ara ẹ̀ ṣe, ọwọ́ ẹ̀ ló fi tún ìgbé ayé ọmọ ẹ̀ ṣe. Ìbò tọlọ́wọ́ òun ló dì. Àpótí tó bá rí ọwọ́ lára ẹ̀ òun ló sọ ìbò ẹ sí ìbò.
Ìbò lọ́wọ́, their own logo was a hand. So wherever you see the logo, that's why you should vote. They're working with NNA. You mothers, you parents, vote for NNA so that your children will get jobs, because all the jobs are being taken over by folks. By the way, he's talking about federal jobs, and everybody should have access to those opportunities, but they've been cornered by a particular group. And so he's saying people should vote for them. So essentially, of course, like I said, it's a campaign speech, but a lot of history, you find in there.
Fún orí ọmọ ẹ ṣe, ìbò tí ó mú iṣẹ́ wọ ilẹ̀ Yorùbá, ìbò tí ó mú iṣẹ́ wọ gbogbo Nàìjíríà, ìbò tí ó mú ìṣọ̀kan gbogbo Nàìjíríà wá nìyí, ìbò tí ó gbà wá lọ́wọ́ ìrẹ́jẹ àwọn àjòjì gbogbogbò nípa mọ́lẹ̀ òmọ́rìn. Wọ́n tó ń gbọ́ ohùn mi láti Èkó wá, bó bá jẹ àtẹ̀sán tó jẹ tẹ́tẹ́ tó sì fẹ́ jalè nítorí Ọlọ́run. Máa ronú díẹ̀díẹ̀ bó máa ń kọjá lọ. Àwọn ọmọ Sùwé ti Balógun, àwọn olóko ńlá ń bàdàn, ìbò wọn wà lónìí o. Ìṣọ̀tà ń gbé ń bá àìbátù rí Báṣọ̀run, ta ló wà ńbẹ̀ lónìí? Ìbò ìṣọ́ ti Sùwé, ta ló wà ńbẹ̀ lónìí? Tó bá ń kọjá lọ, wọ́n máa ṣíjú òkè. Gbogbo ibi tí a ti ní kíkọ̀ rà òkú o. Àwọn àjòjì gbogbogbò dúdú ìbò alákùkọ, àkọ́ni ń ṣètò, wọ́n ni wọ́n ń lé yín nítọ̀.
Those shops that were owned by Yoruba people in the past, that do you notice that they're no longer there, and that the shops that they call some people Korah. So we use it is like a general term for Lebanese in Yoruba, particularly in Ibadan. That the shops, so they're trying to indigenize and say that okay, so there are certain opportunities that we're trying to get the foreigners out of, but he's saying that the Ibos are taking over those spaces. Meanwhile, Nigeria was getting the foreigners out so that Nigerians could, take advantage. But what he's saying is that as the Korah or the Lebanese are leaving, by the way, if there's certain parts of Yoruba land that you had a lot of Lebanese. You had in Lagos, you had in Ibadan, you had in Lisa, and other places. You also have in the north and kind of, but that as these guys are leaving, it looks like these other guys are coming in. Like when you're walking the streets, look up. Superstar. Jesus Christ, I've been talking since, so I was trying to explain that thing. Jeez, I had to mute because
Jesus Christ, I've been talking since, so I was trying to explain that thing. Jeez, I had to mute because of the distraction. I apologize. But so I was saying that Papa was talking about certain people. Thank you, by the way, for writing audio muted. Though. Thank you. So I was saying that SLA was talking about the fact that certain shops and stores that used to be owned by Lebanese people, so he used the word Kora. Níbàdàn àbílẹ̀ Yorùbá, àwọn tó máa ń pè ní Kora, àwọn Lebanese máa ń pè bẹ́ẹ̀. So they got them out of certain spaces so that indigenous people could get into those spaces, but they now discovered that the indigenous people getting into those spaces turned out to be Ibos. That's what he's saying. That yes, they're getting foreigners out of those spaces so that indigenous people could take advantage of it. But it looks like the only group that they are seeing there are Ibos. So it says, you guys, when you're walking in Lagos and in Ibadan, in your marketplaces, look up. By the way, if you live in Ibadan, you must have heard of Lebanon Road. Go and Big Baggy Atijo, Ogunpa. On Lebanese look occupied by the way, back in the day, you had Lebanese dominating commerce trade, right? Especially in Ibadan, in Lagos, in Ilesha, and other places, also in Kano and some places like that. So they're saying that they're trying to democratize some of those spaces, but now that we're removing foreigners, it's crazy that it's only one ethnicity that's taking over that space. That's what he is saying.
Wọ́n fẹ́ bẹ̀rẹ̀ ogun láti gbági láti máa gbà láti ìṣọ̀kan dé ìṣọ̀kan tí wọ́n gba ilé tí wọ́n tán àwọn ọ̀ráyè ilé wọn tí wọ́n tún kó ti di sáárì tí wọ́n tún.
He said they're going through Lagos from store to store, and they're doing that same thing in Ibadan, starting from Gbagi. Gbagi was the main place at the time. Gbagi was so, I mean, by 1980, Bolagi had to make sure that Gbagi, you know, they had to move the market to another part of Ibadan. So that's why you have new Gbagi towards Alakia. You know, so it was a main clinic, and it was very close to Agbeni, you know. So we're saying that, you know, they're going from shop to shop. They want to take over all those spaces. Of course, you have some hyperbole, but it's politics. But the idea basically is the fact that they have taken their own spaces where they're coming from. They're now coming to your own place to take your own place and things like that.
Ọlọ́run má kókò wá apá ìmọ̀ pọ̀ kì í ṣe pé a sọ pé kí Ìgbò ó má ní ìpín tirẹ̀ àmọ́ ẹnìkan kì í jẹ́ kí ilẹ̀ ọbẹ̀ tí wọ́n bá ní ìpín tiwọn tán ó yẹ kí àwọn èèyàn tiwa pàápàá ká ní àǹfààní tiwa ó yẹ kí wọ́n fi nǹkan rere gbogbo tó wà láyé tí wọ́n fi tì wá ẹlòmíà sì sọ pé mo ṣe sí àwọn ọmọ Yorùbá náà ebi wọn nípìn nínú ẹ̀ òye tara ẹ̀ jẹ. Àwọn ọmọ Yorùbá wo ló ní ìlú wọn ìgbà tí wọ́n ń bá tàn wá jẹ tí wọ́n pé àwọn akíkọ̀sílẹ̀ wà nínú ìjọba àtẹ̀pọ̀ àwọn dr Benson wà ń bẹ̀ àwọn tos Benson wà ń bẹ̀ èwo ni wọ́n bá akíkọ̀sílẹ̀.
He said some people would say, oh, all this thing you're saying, you're just shouting. Do you not know that some Yoruba people who also have opportunities, who are also working with the federal government? He now said, don't deceive yourself. When you hear that they've given something to federal government, who are they talking about? They're talking about Aki Foshile. They're talking about TOS Benson. By the way, these names I'm mentioning, and NCNC at the time. They're talking about, yes, Aki Foshile, TOS Benson. Like these people you're talking about now, what opportunities have they been given in the government? And then he mentioned one minister, one portfolio. And when he says, I'm going to explain later. Take a listen. Ah, dear. He's talking about Telegram, what's it called now? PNT. that when the ministry became obsolete, that's when they made Akinfoshile the minister. And they should ask themselves, in the last 5 years, how many towns, I think it's wire for Telegram and stuff like that, how much space has Akinfoshile covered in the last few years? And they give them, essentially what I'm trying to say is that they give them moribund portfolios and ministries that have no power. Just like it happened under GEJ. Guys, that's actually true. It's the same thing that happened under GEJ. I think we had one, but they said that man was from Edo State. I don't want to mention his name. Let's just go on.
ìlú ibi mélòó olóògbé kápò sáfìsì tuntun ẹbí ẹ̀kọ́ pàdé òsì lójú tí yóò káyà wọ́n rí pé òṣòwò ń bẹ wọ́n gbé lọ ibi tí ògbé máa jókòó lásán ọmọ ọ̀fìn ìbò kí tí ó bá sì jẹ́ pé bẹ́ẹ̀ kọ́ ló.
ọ̀rọ̀ burúkú tó ń tẹ̀lé. They said they put him in P&T. How many post offices has it built in the last 5 years? How many rows of cables has he laid in terms of connection? He said it's not his fault. After all, there's no money there. They just put him there to be speaking English. Come off a bookie. See, I'm going to be only part of Yorùbá Ìbàdàn bàbá yẹn sọ. Ó ní wọn Ìbàdàn yẹn máa ń sọ̀rọ̀. Ọdún ìgbò bọ́ṣọ̀ bàbá ọ̀bọ̀ Yorùbá ìfẹ́jọ́ Yorùbá Ìbàdàn. Bọ̀mọ̀tọ̀yọ̀. When I come off a bookie, in other words, just be speaking English. Like there's nothing. You are in charge of a ministry that doesn't really do much. We're just there speaking English, and then they tell you that after all, one of you is also there. It's the same argument you have when you talk about the war, and someone tells you it's a lie. And I know this is a digression. They'll say, "Oh, it's a lie that you're saying that something happened in Akwa Ibom." After all, the deputy Tojuku was an Akwa Ibom man. Does that mean that? So essentially, when you want to talk, they just give you one tokenism. Like, after all, you have somebody there as well. That's what Baba is also. Bola Bimbo says speaking English up and down. Say, is that the interpretation for Kema Seboki? Kodunto, but better. It's better than what I said, but Koti Debe. Yoruba is just one very interesting language, isn't it? But thank you very much, Bimbo, for writing that in the comment section. Thanks. Let's go on.
ilé láti kẹsàn-án òde ìwọ tó ń gbóhùn mi lápá òkìtì pupa lálẹ́ lọ́ọ̀dún akíkọ̀ sílẹ̀ ò sọ mi pé láwọ̀ ọ̀gbà tó débẹ̀ yìí nǹkan báyìí ló ṣe fún yín mẹ́ kò lè ṣe é wípò ní fọmọ Yorùbá tó tí ó gbé ṣe ń tó dáa fáwọn èèyàn.
He said, if you are from Okitipupa, go to Akinfoshile's town and ask, what has he done in the last 5 years? He will not do anything good there because the Ibos will not place him where he would have access to resources. Politics. Let's keep listening.
Àwọn ibi iṣẹ́ tí kì í pè sọ̀yìn ọ̀dọ̀ta èèyàn bíi ibi àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ tí wọ́n pè ní ministry of labour tó dàbí ìgbèyàn jókòó lórí àbá ẹ̀sìn báwọn ìbò alásùpọ̀ bí pẹ̀ láyà tó àwọn èèyàn.
He said, now look at U.S. Benson. They gave him a job at the Ministry of Labour where he will work and he will be getting in trouble with people. They'll be hating on him. Their own people will not do that because they don't do that kind of job. But they'll put someone like T.O.S. Benson. By the way, T.O.S. Benson was a Yoruba man from Ikorodu and he was an SNC as well. But they gave him opportunity. They said they put him in labor where nothing serious was happening in terms of no money that can actually use to better the lot of his people like others were doing in Igbo land. Let's continue.
The Minister of Labour, wọ́n bá gbé Benson tó jẹ́ Yorùbá wọ́n gbé lórí àbá ẹ̀. Inú bí tó bẹ́ẹ̀ jẹ́ ọmọlúwàbí tí ò fẹ́ wọ́n tó forúkọ ojú kúkúrú ẹni tí ọdún níran níbi níran ló ń bá lóun ò ṣe mọ́ ó lóun ò dìbò mọ́ ó ráwọn ẹgbẹ́ alákùnkọ̀ tán òrí ọmọ wa tó bọ̀ alẹ́ Benson ọlọ́wọ́ bá pè é bọ̀ alẹ́ o.
Sorry, that one was Johnson. Now it's going to Johnson was the one that was Minister of Labour, and then he walked away from it. Then he said, Orio Mowa Shobowale. So TOS Benson, the S there is Shobowale Johnson. He's saying Oromowa Shobowale Johnson. Olorun Oba Bobowale o. Oba is something else. How do you even explain that? Just wordplay. Essentially, that this man's name is Bowale, that may God bring him back home. Because Bowale means someone that they don't bring back to the house. Oh boy, but even my Igbo today is wonderful. Let's just continue listening. I beg.
lòun mo ronú tí ò fẹ́ bẹ́ẹ̀ tí ò tó ránṣẹ́ ìpè Benson ló bá wá ń bá aṣọ ogún ẹ jẹ́ káwa àwọn Haúsá ní òkè ọya kó wá dàbí ẹni tí Ọlọ́run má kókò wá apá ìmọ̀tọ̀ yìí ṣe pé a sọ pé kí Ìgbò kó má ní ìpín tirẹ̀ àmọ́ ẹnìkan kì í jẹ́ kí ilẹ̀ ọ̀fẹ́ tí wọ́n bá ní ìpín tiwọn tán ó yẹ kí àwọn èèyàn ti wá pàápàá ká ní àǹfààní tiwa.
What is said in passing? Sorry, what is said in passing when he said the of Imoronu Sibe? I want to read something to you about that. I think it's important to read. Please, some of these things will make you feel bad. I see people in the comment section say they get angry when they come here. I understand. What I'm about to read will even get you angrier. So get ready. But let me play what he said before I, read something to you. I'm going to read from a newspaper. I won't go into books for now. Let's just play something and then we'll put it in perspective.
Kí ló kàn pẹ̀lú wọn lọ́wọ́ ń bò ó di parí ẹ̀ mọ́tẹ́ ìlàpẹ̀rù ìrònú kọ́ wọ́n gbélé lọ wọ́n bá gbé mi ronú wọ́n bẹ láyà.
Ó ní TOS Benson náwó nọ́ra wọ́n á gbé rònú lé lọ́wọ́ is still wordplay. Ìrònú is actually there's a person called maybe it's Moronu or something. It's Igbo. Moronu or Moronu whatever, but Yoruba Moronu. Who is that? Let me read something to you from. By the way, Moronu was an Igbo man, and what they did to TOS Benson. Let me read to you from a piece a piece in the Nation. The unedifying political muscle being exhibited by some Igbo people presently in Lagos reminds me of the electoral tussle between the late flamboyant Chief TOS Benson and the little-known Madunagu Moronu, an Igbo from the present southeast. The two of them were competing to get their party's ticket to contest the Lagos East parliamentary seat at the 1964 federal election. Chief Theophilus Owolabi Shobowale Benson was one of the leaders of NCNC during the pre and post. I'll tell that again. Chief Theophilus Owolabi Shobowale Benson was one of the leaders of NCNC during the pre and post-independence era. He was an embodiment of all that the party stood for, as he was the face of the party, not only in the then Western region, where he was for many years the chairman of the party's working committee, but throughout the Federation of Nigeria. Chief Benson helped to build the party and was a loyal disciple of the charismatic Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, the leader of the party. Benson first entered Federal House of Representatives in 1954 as an NCNC member, representing one of the two seats allocated to Lagos. He was then the chief whip in the NPC-NCNC coalition government. In the pre-independence federal election of 1959, he won the seat again for the NCNC, and after the election was made the first Nigerian Minister of Information. Moronu, on the other hand, Moronu, on the other hand, did not have his type of profile in the then political dispensation of Nigeria. Chief Benson's political base in his constituency was solid, as he was supported by virtually all the Igbo people in the constituency who were followers of NCNC. Benson was a good representative of the Igbo people and helped many of them settle in Lagos. The support of the Igbo people in his constituency helped him in 1959 to defeat the formidable Chief Akintola of the Action Group. Politically, in the 50s and early 60s, Chief Benson was a titan in Nigerian political firmament. However, his political fortune started to run into troubled waters as a result of the political crisis that engulfed Western Nigeria in 1962. Chief Akintola, the premier of the region, having left his party, the Action Group, was able to stay in power as premier through the support of the NCNC led by Chief Akintola, gave his party the UPP. However, Chief Akintola, in a deft political move in 1964, formed a new party called the Nigerian National Democratic Party, NNDP, made up of his party members and a substantial membership of NCNC in the West. Prominent leaders of NCNC in the West like Fani Kaude, Babatunde Olofo-Eko, Richard Akinjide, and Olumofin joined the new party. This political brinkmanship by Chief Akintola decimated the NCNC in Western Nigeria. Chief Benson did not join the new party, but many people saw through his body language that he had sympathy for the new party. For the 1964 federal election, the NNDP in the West formed an alliance with the NPC from the North to form Nigerian National Alliance, NNA. The NCNC, on the other hand, joined the remnant of the fractured Action Group from the West to form an alliance called United Progressive Grand Alliance, UPGA. Chief T.O.S. Benson, as a debutant law, Chief T.O.S. Benson, as an NCNC member, wanted to contest the federal election in his constituency under the platform of UPGA, which was then dominated by the Igbo in his constituency. The UPGA alliance in Lagos East constituency, despite Benson's high profile, put up Moronu instead of him, who had held the seat since 1954. All efforts to resolve this matter failed, and the Igbo in the constituency did not countenance any idea of putting up another Yoruba man to replace Benson as UPGA candidate. Chief Benson had no alternative but to contest the election as an independent UPGA. The 1964 federal election generated a lot of controversy and crisis. The UPGA, under the leadership of Dr. Michael Okpara, the premier of the then Eastern region, called the supporters of UPGA to boycott the election, while the leadership of NNA called its supporters not to boycott the election. The UPGA supporters heeded the directive of their leaders, and the election was fully boycotted by them. Chief Benson, contesting as independent UPGA, could only garner 574 votes to win the election. With this ludicrously low vote, Chief Benson entered the parliament since the electoral law did not have provision for election boycott. Chief Benson was subsequently appointed as a minister in the government of national unity, clubbed together by the then Prime Minister, Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa. The 1964 electoral tussle between Chief Benson and Moronu in the Lagos constituency showed the flexing of political muscle by the Igbo in the Lagos constituency. Unfortunately, they used the muscle to dent the electoral fortune of somebody who loved and cared for their community. Chief Benson even married an Igbo woman, the delectable Dr. Abacheta, who unfortunately died. Moronu, who was pitched against Chief Benson, was a political lightweight when compared to Chief Benson. As a result of this, the opposition had a field day in mocking Chief Benson for getting himself into this political quagmire. Chief Akintola, arguably the greatest political wordsmith in Yoruba land, mocked the chief by telling him that the NCNC leadership wanted to destroy him by setting him up against somebody who would perpetually give him bad thoughts. The meaning of Moronu in Yoruba connotes bad thoughts. Before this Benson-Moronu tussle, Igbo had occupied political posts in Lagos without much force. Mbono Ojike from Olu, deep in Igbo heartland, was deputy mayor of Lagos. Nnamdi Azikiwe, the darling of the Lagos crowd, contested the election from Lagos to become member of Western House of Assembly. That was in Ibadan. One Ebubedike, an Igbo man, represented Ajeromi Papa in the Western Nigeria House of Assembly in 1960. He was reputed to be one of the people that disrupted the proceedings. Actually, he was one that broke the mace. He broke the mace in 1962. So he says he was reputed to be one of the people that disrupted the proceedings in the Western Nigeria House of Assembly during the Action Group crisis in 1962. I mean, it goes on and on, but I think you get the point. And the reason I'm reading this is because, you hear some of these things. Benson, we may not understand it, so that's why I'm providing this context. I hope it helps. So essentially what's happening here is this. This man, T.S. Benson, has been in NCNC for a very long time, and has been representing the party since 1954, right? So it was heavyweight. It was a political heavyweight. But when the time came for the election, the Ibos decided to put up an Igbo man in Ikorodu to represent Ikorodu because they wanted an Igbo man there. This is why we don't want a repeat of what happened in the past. Thank you, Bola Bimbo. We don't want to have a repeat of what happened in the past, where people just think that they have that, thing and say, okay, we want to have people in our place. And if you speak, you are a tribalist. You don't like Nigerian unity. There's another part to this thing that happens to U.S. Benson, but I hope this actually gives us, the proper perspective. Thanks. Let's go on listening. In other words, a political lightweight, somebody who is not even known in the political firmament, is now becoming his rival, right? And the reason that guy actually got to become his rival was simply because he was Igbo. And what happened was that when they had the Opga alliance, NCNC and AG, they chose to drop the Yoruba man that was in Ikorodu, T.S. Benson, who everybody already knew, who had already become a minister, by the way. Just to say that this whole national unity, one Nigeria, it's one Nigeria at your expense or at your detriment. I hope you get the point.
Ìgbà tí wọ́n ń bá tàn wá jẹ tí wọ́n pé àwọn akíkọ̀sílẹ̀ wà nínú ìjọba àṣepọ̀, àwọn Benson wà ń bẹ̀, àwọn T.S. Benson wà ń bẹ̀, èwo ni wọ́n bá kíkọ̀sílẹ̀. Ìgbà tí wọ́n rí pé mínísítì ti wáyà àti kìíní owó òsì ń bẹ̀ mọ́, ìgbà náà la kíkọ̀sílẹ̀ débẹ̀. Ìwọ́n tó ń sì ń gbóhùn mi, ìlú mélòó la kíkọ̀sílẹ̀ pa wáyà dé láti bí ọdún márùn-ún tó ti débẹ̀. Ìlú ibi mélòó olóògbé kọ́kọ́ sọ́fíìsì tuntun ẹbí ẹ̀kọ́ pàdé òsì lójú tí yóò káyà. Wọ́n rí pé òṣòwò ń bẹ wọ́n gbé lọ ibi tí ó gbé máa jókòó lásán. Ọmọ ọ̀sìn ìbò kí tí ó bá sì jẹ́ pé bẹ́ẹ̀ kọ́ lórí ilé láti kẹ́sọ̀ọ́ òde. Ìwọ tó ń gbóhùn mi lápá òkìtì pupa lálẹ́ yìí. Lọ́ọ̀lú akíkọ̀sílẹ̀ sọ mi pé láwọn ọ̀gbà tó débẹ̀ yìí o nǹkan báyìí ló ṣe fún ìmẹ̀. Kò lè ṣe é ipò ní fọmọ Yorùbá síbi tí ó gbé ṣe ń tó dáa fáwọn èèyàn ẹ̀. Òtún lọ fún ojú ẹ̀ ń dán. Ibi tó le àwọn ibi iṣẹ́ tí kì í gbé sọ̀yàn dọ̀tá èèyàn. Tó dàbí ìgbèyànjọ́ àtùpọ̀ tí gbọ̀n láyà tó àwọn èdè bẹ́ẹ̀. Ẹlòmíì wọ́n gbé lébẹ̀. Wọ́n bá gbé Benson tó jẹ́ Yorùbá, wọ́n gbé lórí àṣàyè. Inú bí tó bẹ̀ jẹ́ ọmọlúwàbí tí ò fẹ́ wọ́n sọ orúkọ ohun búburú. Ẹni tí ọdún níbi ríran ló ń bá lòun ò ṣe mọ́, ó lòun ò dìbò mọ́. Ó ń ráwọn ẹgbẹ́ alákùnkọ́ tán. Orí ọmọ wa tó bọ̀ alẹ́ Benson, ọlọ́run bá pè bọ̀ alẹ́ o orí tó ṣe lọ nígbà ń sọ pé ipò òfẹ́ tẹlòmí àti tara wọn nìkan gbà á tìtìtìtì kò sóyè tí ọ̀jẹ̀nú ẹgbẹ́ ń tán wọ́n lò ń lo omi odò ọ̀nàwó ọ̀nàra ó ṣe gbogbo ẹ̀ ebi agbẹ́mẹtulà gbé kìló bẹ̀sì kí ló kàn pẹ̀lú wọn lọ ń wò ó di parí ẹ̀ ìmọ̀dé ìnàfẹ́nu ìrònú kọ́ wọ́n gbélé lọ wọ́n bá gbé mòróró wọ́n bẹ ti láyà lòun mòróró tí ò fẹ́ bẹ́ẹ̀ tí ò tó ránṣẹ́ ìgbésẹ̀ bẹ́ńsì ló bá wọn bá aṣọ ogún ẹ jẹ́ káwa Yorùbá ká pa ìmọ̀ wa sọ̀rọ̀ ìbò yìí kí wọ́n má ti tú wa ká o ẹ má jẹ́ kí wọ́n fi ìbò yìí bà ilẹ̀ wa jẹ́ kí wọ́n gbaṣẹ́ wa kí wọ́n dí wa lọ́nà òwò kí wọ́n má jẹ́ àìsàn fàgbétọ̀ kí wọ́n má jẹ́ aráyè mú ìjọba kó o sì tún jókòó máa fi ìbò pé ọ̀rọ̀ Akíntọ́lá ọ̀rọ̀ Awólọ́wọ̀ rẹ̀ o lè torí ọ̀fun àtòkìná bọlé ọ̀rọ̀ Akíntọ́lá kọ́ lélẹ́yìí ọ̀rọ̀ Awólọ́wọ̀ kọ́ ẹ̀ ó dá mi lójú pé kò sẹ́nìkan tó mọ ipò alákùkọ tó ju Awólọ́wọ̀ lọ ó mọ̀ wọ́n tinútinú ó mọ̀ wọ́n dẹ́yìn dáadáa ìwọ tó wà á máa pé ọ̀rọ̀ Akíntọ́lá ni n ò bẹ̀ ọ́ pé kó o fẹ́ràn Akíntọ́lá n ò ní kó o fẹ́ràn ẹnikẹ́ni ó lọ máa ń dín fẹ́ràn gbogbo wọn ó fi tán ṣùgbọ́n bó o tiẹ̀ kò níra Akíntọ́lá wọ́n fi ọ́ ṣe é tó kò níra ọmọ ẹ̀.
So he's saying that, he said a lot of those things. They repeated it again. Sorry, they repeated that portion of the video. And then he said some people are saying that this is about Awolowo versus Akintola. So he says it's not about Awolowo versus Akintola. Even if you hate him, that's okay. As long as God loves all of us, it's fine. But the point is that you shouldn't hate people to the point where you hate your own children and you're going to vote against their interest. Boy, it's past 8. Oh boy. I don't usually stay long on days like this, but we're here. I have to rush. Essentially, he's saying that it's not about Awolowo versus Akintola, it's about Yoruba interests, and the Yoruba people should unite, go into the election, and they shouldn't, group versus the other. By the way, that was actually the plan that the Igbo National Caucus talked about in the same year, 1964, where they talked about the fact that they had to ensure that the Yoruba people in NNDP and Action Group did not unite so that the Ibos would be able to win the Western region. They wrote that in their own protocol. I'm not making it up. And if you know what, let's keep listening. I'm going to read that thing to you later. Just listen.
Àtúmọ̀ àwọn NPC àtúmọ̀ àwọn ti ẹgbẹ́ ti òkè ọya ìṣe nítorí pé a fẹ́ ta ẹnikẹ́ni fún wọn àwọn náà lọ́wọ́ fẹ́ rẹ rú nígbà tí ẹ ti ń sọ pé a fẹ́ tà ní Haúsá yìí ibi Èkó wà nítòsí alọ́mọ wa o Èkó èdè mẹ́rin ìgbèrí.
Oh boy, this man is something else. It says that we're working with the Hausas, but some people call us Hausa slaves, or that we're trying to sell Yoruba to Hausas as slaves. He said, but the Hausas are not saying they want to buy slaves anyway. And that where Lagos was 2 years ago is still where it is. It has not moved to Maiduguri. In other words, if they had sold the place, they would have collected money and relocated everybody in Lagos. Essentially saying that this is not about selling the West to the North. It's just about aligning with them in order to gain, power, essentially. Take a listen, please.
Ìbàdàn Èdó bá ó ṣí o, wọ́n máa tàn ọ́ jẹ, wọ́n á ní Haúsá ọ̀dà ọmọ lónìí. Ọ̀dà ọmọ ń gbà tá àti bí ọdún mẹ́wàá, ọdún méje, ọdún márùn-ún ni wọ́n ti ń jókòó pọ̀ tí wọ́n jẹ́ gbogbo mùlùmùlù lẹ̀ yìí tí wọ́n jẹ́ pẹ̀pẹ̀.
He says they will tell you that Hausas are bad, they are terrible, you are their slaves. But Hausas are not good now after they have spent the last 3 years, 5 years, 10 years enjoying the largesse of the federal government with them. Now they are saying that Hausas are bad. So as in, like you should understand the fact that they're not really telling the truth.
Fún àwọn Haúsá Bodebi yi Ndotuku, Bodebi yi Wantuku, Bodebi yi Nwokedi, Bodebi yi Mbaduwe, Bodebi yi Anuduke. Àwọn nìkan lọ́lọ́run dáyé fún àwọn àkókò tó tí ìwọ náà ráyè tiẹ̀ òun pé ọ̀rọ̀ Akíntọ́lá òun pé ọ̀rọ̀ Awólọ́wọ̀ ọ̀rọ̀ tó bá jọun là á mà fi wéwu. Ẹ jẹ́ ká mọ́ tara wa lóṣù ká wá rere fún àwọn ọmọ wa ká wá rere fún àwọn ẹbí wa ká wá rere fún ilẹ̀ wa. Kí ló ti sọ fún yín pé ti ẹgbẹ́ ti alákùkọ ẹgbẹ́ àwọn arẹ́nijẹni ẹgbẹ́ àwọn akónitani ìgbà tí àwọn tó wà nú ẹ̀rí jẹ́ tí ọmọ Yorùbá tí wọ́n rí wọn bí wọ́n ti rí nítorí ìfẹ́ tí wọ́n ní sí ilẹ̀ bàbá wọn nítorí pé wọn ọ̀fẹ́ rẹ̀ jẹ́ wọ́n pa àkùkọ pátápátá. Ìwọ tó tún kù ńbẹ̀ tó ló tún máa àkùkọ ní ilẹ̀ Iléṣà dúdú olówó òkú Èkìtì mọ́ lọ. Ní Ifẹ̀ ìwọ tún mọ̀ ju kú sí Fani Káyọ̀dé ti mọ́ lọ. O tún máa àkùkọ ní ìlú.
He said that many people that used to be part of NCNC have left when they remember the fact that they're Yoruba people first and they're about to leave. By the way, if you read the document I mentioned earlier, the white paper, those people he talked about are the ones who actually signed at the back of the book. If you've seen that document, you would have seen what I'm about to say. You see names like Benson, you see Akintola, you see Fani Káyọ̀dé, Olófoyèkó, Lámúyẹ, and Aroye Akinjide. Those are the people that he is mentioning. That if you say you know Akoko, that's a cock, which is the logo of the party. Do you know it more than Fani Káyọ̀dé in Ife? Because Fani Káyọ̀dé was from Ife. Again, you have to understand. There are some background knowledge about Insha and Losha. Essentially, say he's mentioning the different people, whether it's Akinfoshile or it's Fani Káyọ̀dé from different parts of Yoruba land who have had to move away from the NCNC because they discovered the fact that these guys are pushing Igbo agenda. In other words, you cannot become more Catholic than the Pope. Those who used to be in NCNC, you can't know the party more than them.
Wọ́n ti kú ọlọ́pẹ́ wọ́n ti dìgbà bó ti pẹ́ orí àwọn àgbẹ̀ tí wọ́n fowó wọn ná ó ti sùn wọ́n ti gbàgbó orí àwọn tó jẹ́ pé ṣòwòṣòwò tó ń bẹ lóòrùn tí náwó wà ní òògùn ó ti sọ wọ́n ti gbàgbó a sì ṣe ohun ribiribi láti rí i pé a gba gbogbo tí wọ́n bà lọ́ àgbẹ̀ a gba púpọ̀ ẹ̀ a gbà padà fún àwọn àgbẹ̀ ilẹ̀ wa jẹ́ lógún láti rí i pé wọ́n dúró tì wá lọ́sàn-án wọ́n dúró tì wá lóru. Èyí tí ó sì sì nínú ẹgbẹ́ ọlọ́pẹ kò mà sí mọ́ o ẹ má jẹ́ ká tan ara wa jẹ o.
Okay, this is where he actually attacks Action Group. So he's saying that they want to take care of the farmers, they want to be good to Yoruba farmers, Yoruba people who are supporting the party. Right, and then now he's about to actually attack Action Group. And I'll let him attack, then I'll read some things from the other book. So he's saying that of the Action Group members, there are very few left. Actually, at this point, it's playing politics because at this point, Action Group members had already formed a coalition with NCNC, that's OPGA. So apparently, politicians will be politicians. But let's listen to that part.
Ẹgbẹ̀rún ọ̀nà ogún ni £20,000. Owó tẹ̀yìn ó rí tán àwọn tó pé ọ̀sánwó orí ẹgbẹ̀rún ọ̀nà ogún kò mọ̀ pé ìtawà ní. Ẹ̀jẹ̀ tí a pàtẹ́jọ́ ọlọ́pẹ sí. Ọ̀pẹ tó ti gbàgbó àwọn wo ló ti àákù ń bẹ̀. Bí ò bá jẹ́ pa àbòdè tí ẹ ń ṣe títà ẹrí wọn mọ́. Àwọn tó kù ń bẹ̀ ìbò gbé iró. Ìbò dá iró. Ìbò bí ìlú.
Ìbò gbẹ̀rún, ìbò dá ẹ̀rọ, ìbò gbìyì, ìbò gbé yìí àbí Bobi? So think about it. Ibo tó ń sọ yẹn kí ni ìtumọ̀ kan tó ń sọ? Ṣé ẹ̀yà ni àbí vote?
He's talking about the alliance.
Ibo Gbenro. He's talking about the alliance there. This man is brilliant. He's talking about the alliance they had.
Stopping this time because
Ibo Gbenro. Ibo B. My boy, I can to play. I'm stopping this time because I thought it's important to highlight these funny things. Oh dear. What's in Parasay? You might be no.
nínú ẹgbẹ́ ọlọ́pẹ kò mà sí mọ́ o ẹ má mà jẹ́ ká tan ara wa jẹ o gbogbo owó àwọn àgbẹ̀ tá a mú ẹ kó ná alẹ́ nìkan nínú wọn lẹ́nu ọjọ́ mẹ́ta yìí owó orí lásán tí ẹni ọ̀sán lórí owó tó bá owó ẹ̀ ẹgbẹ̀rún ọ̀nà ogún ni £20,000 owó téèyàn ò rí tán owó tó pé ọ̀sán owó orí ẹgbẹ̀rún ọ̀nà ogún kò mọ̀ pé ìtọ́wà ní ẹgbẹ́ tí a pàṣẹ gbé ọlọ́pàá sí ọ̀pẹ̀ tí ó sì gbàgbọ́ àwọn wo ló ti àákù ńbẹ̀ yóò ajẹ́pà àbòdè tí ń ṣe tipátipá ẹrí wọn mọ́ àwọn tó kù ń bẹ̀ ìbò pé ìbò bí ìbò bá ń jọ ọmọ adókù ní ẹgbẹ́ ọlọ́pàá ẹ̀rí yìí pé.
Let me just say, see, there are people called Benro and Banjo and B there. So just add Ibo as a prefix to give the idea that they are there because of the coalition between the party and the Ibos. Quite crazy, isn't it? Oh boy.
Bọ̀rọ̀ bó bá tán, èyí tó fi ń gbàgbọ́ lókì náà ni wọ́n ò dá. Ọlọ́mọ fà ó sẹ́yìn o. Àwọn wo la tún rí nínú ẹ̀? Ọ̀rẹ́ bẹ́ẹ̀ yìí. Àwọn tó kù gbọ́ ìgbàgbọ́ ọ̀rẹ́ bẹ́ẹ̀ yìí. Lálẹ́yìn tó gbẹ̀yìn gbogbo owó ti bẹ ní ẹ̀yìn pátápátá iwájú làwọn ọmọ máa lọ ìbò ọwọ́ ni ó dúró gbogbo ń ta níwájú ni yóò ti ṣe dáa fún àgbẹ̀ yóò ti ṣe dáa fún mẹ̀kúnnù báwo ti ṣe máa ṣe ìdáwó pẹ̀lú ìrànlọ́wọ́ ìjọba gbogbogbò fún gbogbo àwọn àgbẹ̀ tí àwọn oníṣẹ́ owó ti ṣe ti alájùmọ̀ṣepọ̀ pẹ̀lú ìjọba nítorí ìjọba gbogbo wa là ń jẹ́ bẹ́ẹ̀ tí ò ní sí ọmọ ẹgbẹ́.
Yes, Great Army. He was talking about those people. Adegbenro was the one that took over from him as premier after he was relieved of that post. Before himself and Tafawa now did Alupaida to bring him back, which of course was actually crazy. They were using it. To be fair, they actually used him to destroy the Western region. The North used Akintola to destroy the Western region. But of course, Adegbenro was the premier, but wasn't there for long before they now brought in the old federal might to bear on the region. You know, so it was referring to those people, Adegbenro, Ibogbenro. In other words, so it's a two-way. It's like a double. Should I call it entendre? Where on the one hand you're talking about the political part, you're talking about the alliance with an ethnic group, Ibos. On the other hand, you're talking about the Ibo as an election. So Ibo Ibo B. So you get the point. Ibo Banjo. There's a Banjo. Dr. Banjo was also in Action Group. I was going to read something before we go on. This is from Igbo National Caucus Protocol. Play up Awolowo at all times. This will keep up the resistance of the Action Group members and stop them from uniting with the NNDP to form a solid Yoruba front. This is vital, and Awolowo is no longer a headache or danger to us. Intensify all propaganda against Akintola. Don't hold that he is sufficiently discredited already. He is still dangerous. We must always keep the quarrel between himself and the Action Group alive. This will ensure the disunity amongst the Yoruba leaders. Seek all means to discredit Fani Kayode. He is the real and only barrier to our domination of the West and our ultimate control of the Federation. NCNC did not write this. Igbo National Caucus wrote it. 1964.
Lórí bí ilẹ̀ owó ti máa lọ síwájú tí àwọn àgbẹ̀ àwọn oníṣẹ́ ọwọ́ tí wọ́n lóhùn nínú gbogbo ti ìjọba tí wọ́n ń lọ́wọ́ nínú ètò gbogbo tó jẹ́ mọ́ ìjọba á sì jẹ́ ọ̀rẹ́ pẹ̀lú àtọ́wà ní ilẹ̀ òkèèrè. A máa yọ ẹnu níyọkúyọ sí ọ̀rọ̀ ọlọ́rọ̀. A máa bí àbá lè parí ìjà ní ilẹ̀ òkèèrè ní dúdú. A máa wọ ọ̀nà tí a ó fi dákun. Ohun tí ẹgbẹ́ NNA sì ń ṣe òun ni pé kí gbogbo wa ká lè gbìyànjú ká lè di ọ̀kan náà ní ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà. Tá a bá mú ọ̀bìà kúrò, tá a mú ọ̀bìnrin kúrò, tá a bá sì mú pé èrò ni wọ́n pa gbogbo ẹ̀ kúrò, kí ló ń ṣe wá? Ẹlòmíì á dìde á ní owó lóde mọ́. Ọmọ kan rẹ̀ jẹ o, wọ́n ti rẹ̀ ṣe pé o. Owó wà lóde. Nígbà tí ọ̀pára tó ṣírò lọ, iṣẹ́ ńláńlá tí wọ́n fi owó gbogbogbò dálẹ̀ nílẹ̀ Ìgbò. Owó kọ́ ni wọ́n fi dálẹ̀. Owó.
He said the plan is to work with the North so that we can have a truly national outlook when it comes to opportunities and taking advantage of those things. So that it's not like you have this situation where one person is covetous and greedy and is taking everything. He's talking about the Ibos. And that if you say there's no money in town, that don't say that because don't curse yourself. There's money in town, because if there's no money in town, all the projects that are being done in the eastern region, it's not money they're using to do it. In other words, they're using your money to do it, but you're saying there's no money in town because only one group is cornering it. And I want to quickly say something. Somebody said, Akintola was right, and everybody in the Fourth Republic is copying it. Yes. So you are right to say that. I want to quickly respond to that. It says, let me see if I can find it. Say Akintola's view eventually prevailed. This is Oloye on TikTok. Akintola's view eventually prevailed in the minds of leading Yoruba politicians in this Fourth Republic. No slight on the sage intended. Thank you very much for that submission, Oloye. So his view prevailed, but the truth of the matter is that you cannot build a country with that view. You can share whatever you get with that view, but you can't build with it. That's the difference. And that's why I said it was being realistic when he said, listen, where we are right now, let's just get in there and take everything we want to take. So if you ask me what would I have done, I would have done what he said and what Papa wanted to do. I would have done what Papa wanted to do at the regional level. I would have done what Akintola wanted to do at the national level. So both of them were right. It was just about implementation. When it comes to sharing what everybody has created, maybe the natural resources, the funds from, whatever, the political opportunities, the jobs and privileges and everything else, let's all share it. But I would have wanted what I would have wanted to do at the regional level. But I wanted to do that at the Nigerian level because he had already done it at the regional level and it worked. So I was going to replicate it for everybody, but level, so that you keep growing at the regional level. Whatever thing they get in the center, you also go and get it and share with them. The only problem is that you cannot grow the center that way. You can share, but you can't grow. And so when you say things like, and you're very correct that everybody in all the politicians in the Fourth Republic are doing what Akintola said. Yes, they are doing it, but what are they growing? What are they building? They share. You can see somebody that looks like you also sharing from the largest. You can see a Yoruba man taking money and a Hausa man and a Fulani man and an Igbo man. Everybody's taking it. Doesn't mean it's actually getting to you. And I think that's where I was coming from. Like, it's not about sharing this stuff amongst, so everybody. So that you feel, it's what Nigerian politics actually does to people. You feel like you're getting part of it, but you're not getting anything. So you look at the way politics is played, you see somebody from your ethnicity actually participating in it, and that gives you almost like everything you want out of it. In other words, even, let me tell you something. I was talking to my brother 2 days ago, my generator had, this massive issue. I used 3 different sources of power. And I said to him that in the last 1 year, I did not know that people suffer like that in Nigeria. And I know people were suffering, but man, it was bad. Just 2 days or 3. And it affected live sessions as well. If you notice, we had some problems. Just 2 or 3 days. So the point is, you are not asking for PHCN to be better. They're just happy that a Yoruba man is in charge of PHCN.
Akintola's perspective is
You see the problem? So our perspective is let's build PHCN. Akintola's perspective is let's get a Yoruba man to also be the minister of PHCN.
when in reality, you don't have
That feeling like we've all shared, it makes you feel good. Like nobody's cheating us. When in reality, you don't have light. To develop, you cannot go by Akintola's method. But if you want to make sure that nobody is cheating your ethnicity, you have to do what Akintola is saying. So when you think about it at the end of the day, and this is my own view, you can disagree, but I don't think you would disagree if you really think about this, to be honest. If you want to grow, you have to go the other way. But if you want to make sure that nobody, your people don't feel left behind in the national equation, then you do what Akintola is saying. And if you ask me, both of them have their points. I just think that it's better to actually create more pies than to be fighting over the one that exists. But of course, nobody should cheat you out of the one that, because the one group that took the one that existed, they took it as though no other person existed. That's the Igbo. They were just eating that cake. Nobody was trying to create any new thing. Just eat it. So others were like, wait though. Let's even say this is the only one we have. How come only one group is eating this thing? Let's share the national cake. So in that, Akintola was right. One of the things that we have to do in our generation is to find that balance. So, we're able to do better. I hope we get the point. All right, let's go on.
Ni wọ́n fi ń ṣe ọ́ìlì family, ni wọ́n fi ń ṣe sìmẹ́ǹtì sáláàtì, ni wọ́n kó gbogbo èyí tó dùn nú ẹ̀, wọ́n tún túlẹ̀ wọn ṣe nítorí àwọn òkúrú ìjọba gbogbogbò. Tó o bá fẹ́ kí owó wọ̀dé, owó wọ bí wọ́n náà bá wa fọwọ́sowọ́pọ̀, a ó sì jọ wà nínú ìjọba gbogbogbò nínú NNA.
He's saying that they're building things, they're building refineries in Port Harcourt, they're doing projects in Port Harcourt, they're using federal money to do it. And the reason they're doing all of those things and countering all that developments is because they're the ones there at the center. And if you want to get there, you got to vote NNA. I'm going to read some of the comments on YouTube before we close tonight, but I hope you are enjoying yourself. We're almost done with the tape, by the way.
Tí àwa náà ní àǹfààní irú èyí tí àwọn Ìgbò ti ní, àwọn ọmọ wa ò rí jẹ, àwọn ọmọ wa ò rí mu, ìwà wa náà ò rí ààyè fọkànbalẹ̀, a ò ní jẹ́ ẹni ẹ̀yìn mọ́, àwa náà wà níwájú, a ó fọ́lọ́ ìrẹ́jẹ, Ọlọ́run Olódùmarè kò ní fẹ́ tiwa níyà, Yorùbá àti gbogbo ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà àtàwọn tó wà lókè ọya wọn ò ní ti ẹni ẹ̀yìn láéláé, bó bá dìbò ẹ, ọwọ́ ni ó kì í fún o, àtẹ́lẹwọ́ ẹni.
Àtẹ́lẹwọ́ ẹni kì í tàn ní jẹ tó bá fẹ́ dìbò fún APC. Oh boy, that was long. I hope you had a great time. All right, thank you very much for listening. I'm going to read some of the things you wrote on YouTube, but thank you for being here. We're going to be here tomorrow. We're going to continue with the hour on trial. 4 p.m. if your time was African time on Thursday. So please join us tomorrow. We're going to have a great time. But it's been lovely. I want to thank everybody who has part time. I'll read your comments, so I might just say this one first. I want to thank everybody who has part time and liked and shared the live on all platforms, whether it's on YouTube or Facebook or right here on TikTok. Thank you so much. Thanks for the gifts as well. I saw a number of people give gifts while we were talking. Thank you very much for your support. If you'd like to support us using cash or bank transfers, please use the bank details on the screen. Your support will be much appreciated. Niora says, Azikiwe handing a ministry with no money or prospect to Akinfoshile sounds like Ojukwu handing Biafra over to Colonel Effiong, just as it was collapsing and as Ojukwu was fleeing Biafra under FG fire. Yeah. Niora says, where is West African pilot today? Well, some people said they went to resuscitate it a couple of years ago. They didn't do it. They never came back, and it is well. I don't want to say something. I don't want to say some things. Niara says Tribune is still strong because truth is a sure foundation. Last, all that mischief collapses on them. Yes. Tribune is now the oldest surviving newspaper in Nigeria, 1949 to 2026. How many years in here? That's 77 this year, or 76 last year. So that's beautiful. That his killing was very graphic. But he was imprisoned. Thank God. But it wasn't. I'm sure it wasn't fun. I'm very sure it wasn't fun. You will see it in this book. We'll read that book tomorrow. Part of it. The book is titled My March Through Prison, Adventures in Power, Book 1. Let's go on. My major concern from your mind on YouTube, my major concern is liberate some of us that have been enslaved with their lies, who carry their propaganda much more than the Apobian and Obidiots. Dennis Pinayo says, this way I look at Momo activist calling himself Abba. Okay, let me read it again. This way I look at the activist calling himself Daily Farotin is the biggest dash now. Oh boy, I was running for one insult. You put another one in front. Let me just read the second one. Your might says Daily seems to be at crossroads, and I'm very sure his eyes will be opened. Flair Sunbeam says, God will continue to bless you. Amen. Keep educating our young Yoruba who are being lied to by other regions. Thank you very much for your submissions on YouTube. Thank you. All right. As it was in the beginning, so it is, and it looks like it's going to continue to be like that until, of course, unless, of course, we do what we're doing. We have to make these things very clear to ourselves. And the crux of it is that this is what I believe. So I think that every Yoruba person must have a lot of awo and some of Akintola. Don't do all this. Akintola mentioned that there's nobody that knows the Ibos more than Awo. And it's true. Awo just felt that it would rather work with them than the feudal lords. And he had his reasons, right? Because that feudal thing, it was nonsense, to be honest. That feudal thing in the north was just too much. And it was crazy. And you wouldn't understand it unless, of course, you're having conversations with people in the middle belt. If you talk about it from outside, you'd be like, what was I even looking for? And I've said that before as well. Then you study it more and you're like, I would have done it the way he did it, but that's because I see where Papa made mistakes. But in all, the point is protect your space, right? Love everybody, work with everybody, respect everyone, but don't let anybody gaslight you with all this nonsense about one Nigeria. I believe in one Nigeria after all, but we have an anthem here every day. Sincerely, it's because I live in the country. I just don't believe that you should lose yourself, which is why I play Yoruba anthem as well. You don't lose yourself because of one Nigeria. And the person who is telling you lose yourself is actually gaining something from your loss. You ought to be smart, right? Love everybody, work with everybody, but no boundaries. And anybody who doesn't understand boundaries is a thief and a covetous person. And they know who they are, and you should know them as well. Not by saying everybody is bad, but being very careful. There are people whose entire ideology is based on scarcity. And I've said it before, your view is usually based on your reality. If your reality is abundance, it's going to show in the way you relate with everybody and the way you interact with the world. Nigerian history, when it comes to all these political posts, people are doing that because they have scarcity back at home. In Yoruba land, for instance, Yoruba was paying higher than the national minimum wage. The Western region was paying, not Yoruba, the Western region was paying higher than the national minimum wage. There was abundance. But there were certain spaces that only the federal government had power over. For instance, Nigerian Port Authority, Yoruba did not, there was no Western region Port Authority, there was no Western region airways, there was no Western region railway. So if you were an engineer and you went to study, you would want to work in the federal government, only for you to get and discover that they're going to demote you for an Igbo person just because you're not Igbo. And then when you complain, you are the tribalist. And to make it very, very clear, there was a commission of inquiry into all of these things, and I have a document here, and that they will talk about it. The things they discovered, but it's not about everything they did was majorly based on the field they interpret with their own people. And that's what Akintola was saying. That it's not having one person in charge, it's about back you don't see all the posts until another person can have access. You know, so that was a real, I mean, not even like
our own dear native land, though tribe and tongue may differ, in brother our sovereign motherland. Our flag shall be a symbol that truth and justice reign. In peace or battle honored, and this we count as gain. To hand unto our a banner without when this our one the nation, when no man is oppressed. And so with peace and plenty, Nigeria may be blessed. Nigeria may be blessed. Iṣẹ́ wa fúnlẹ̀ wá, fún ilẹ̀-èdè wa. Tàgbéga, tàgbéga, tàgbéga fáyé rí. Ìgbàgbọ́ wa ni pé láti bẹ̀rù làbọ̀ mọ́. Ká ṣiṣẹ́, ká ṣiṣẹ́, ká ṣiṣẹ́, ká jọlá. Ìṣọ̀kan àtòmìnira ni ẹ jẹ́ ká máa lépa. Tẹ̀síwájú fọ̀pọ̀ ire àtòhun tó dára. Ọmọ òkè bọ́ sípò ẹ̀tọ́ rẹ̀. Ìwọ ni ìmọ́lẹ̀ gbogbo adúláwọ̀.
àwa ní ìmọ́lẹ̀ ògo adúláwọ̀. Ìmọ́lẹ̀ wọ̀ ní wọ́kùn lágbára Ọlọ́run. Ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ní bàjẹ́, Nàìjíríà náà ní bàjẹ́, ilé wa ọ̀nà wọ̀ ní bàjẹ́. Nǹkan tó bá dá wọlé àmọ́ yọrí sí rẹ̀ ní lágbára Ọlọ́run. May God bless you. May God keep you and cause His face to shine upon you. May you do well in everything that you lay your hands upon, and may you be the success of the cries of many in this country. May you be the solution to the problems we have in our land. May God bless Yoruba land. God bless Nigeria. God bless all parts of this country and every ethnicity within Nigeria. God bless you too as well. See you tomorrow at 4 p.m. If at time West African time, we'll start playing music before 4 on TikTok, and then we'll bring other people on much later. Thank you so much for being part of today's session. I'll see you 4 p.m. if at time West African time on Thursday. And next week, we're going to listen to another elder. We have the stuff we'll be listening to once we gather. You enjoy that one as well. And hopefully we'll learn the lessons and do better in our generation. Thank you so much for being here. Have a lovely evening. God bless you. Odaro.